Professional wrestling is not just a mere form of entertainment. It represents a unique blend of athleticism, storytelling, and showmanship that captivates audiences worldwide. The value of professional wrestling cannot be understated, as it offers an unparalleled form of escapism and excitement for millions of fans. From the larger-than-life characters to the high-flying maneuvers executed inside the ring, each match delivers an adrenaline rush that transports spectators to an extraordinary world where imagination reigns supreme. Moreover, professional wrestling provides an empowering platform for diverse performers to showcase their talents and break societal barriers. Whether it is cheering for your favorite hero or passionately rooting against a villain, professional wrestling creates a sense of unity among its passionate fan base. It brings people together from different walks of life to collectively experience joy, heartache, and triumph in unison. Thus, the value of professional wrestling lies not only in its ability to entertain, but also in its remarkable capacity to inspire and unite people across the globe. Welcome to the weekly Roundup podcast, hosted by Big Time and Paulus Clarke, presented by The Value of Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's The Value of Wrestling, where we vow to put the value back in wrestling. I'm the Big Time, along with my tag team partner this time,
Paulus Clarke.
That's right, and we're back for week 2, episode 2, whatever you want to call it. We are back for The Value of Wrestling, the weekly roundup. We're here to do it again, where we're going to go over every week's show in a real quick format. We're not going to review each and every single match this week. We're not going to break it down in details. We're just going to kind of review the high points of the show, what we thought about the show. Then we're going to rate the shows. Then we're going to get into some news, rumors, the big talk going around wrestling. There's a lot of stuff out there to go over. And we're going to do our SummerSlam review. Yes, we're going to do our SummerSlam review. And we're going to go over all what happened tonight at SummerSlam. Action-packed card. I think it did pretty well, but we'll definitely get into that. Now, if you're following us on Facebook and you see this, come on over to YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications so you know when any videos we put out come out. We may be adding more videos in the near future. We may be doing solo projects. You don't know. This is the value of wrestling. We want to put out content that you enjoy, that's informative, and we want to bring you the very best in wrestling news, information, rumors, reviews, whatever it may be. Also with that, if you are a New Japan Pro Wrestling fan, over on Spotify, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Value of Wrestling, brought to you by Miguel. Yes, he's over there doing a podcast each and every week, talking about what's going on and what's happening with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So if you're a diehard New Japan Pro Wrestling fan, definitely a Spotify podcast you want to join. If you're an AEW fan that's just starting to get to know some of the New Japan Pro Wrestling, if you're just kind of lukewarm about everything New Japan Pro Wrestling, want to learn more, a great place to go. And if you're just getting in like me, who doesn't really know a whole lot, you may know a few names, but you don't know anything about New Japan Pro Wrestling, go over and check our boy out, Miguel, over there on the Value of Wrestling Spotify podcast, and he will bring you up to date on everything that's going on with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and maybe he will even get you interested in seeing some action from New Japan Pro Wrestling, and he'll tell you, I'm sure he can tell you where to go get the hookup to go follow or see some action for New Japan Pro Wrestling. So how are you doing tonight, Mr. Clarke?
Doing all right. Had a great night watching SummerSlam, and
Yes.
we'll get into that when we get there.
Yes. SummerSlam. I'm still on the opening banner here. I haven't switched the video, so you're just hearing voices. So we got Raw on Monday nights. We got AEW Dynamite on Wednesdays. On Fridays, we got SmackDown and AEW Collision. And, of course...
Nope, Rampage on Friday.
Oh, Rampage on Friday and Collision on Saturdays. Forgive me, I
There you
just
go.
went through Collision there on the banner. I just watched Collision after SummerSlam. That's where we are. So, forgive me. Rampage on Fridays, Collision on Saturdays. If you know, you know. If you don't, now you do. And we are all good and knowing to have to battle. And now we're going to bring up our beautiful faces. Now we're live on the screen. So let's quickly just kind of run down everything that happened. And we're going to start with Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw to me was a typical Monday Night Raw. It wasn't great. It wasn't just deplorable, but it was a Monday Night Raw. good. There was decent matches, nothing over the top that I can think of that was really there. They definitely pushed the Cody Rhodes Brock Lesnar feud for SummerSlam. So they gave us more of that. And then I think the best part was really bringing to light the Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey's backstory, really putting more emphasis on that backstory to kind of build a little bit of the intrigue to that match, because that got me a little more excited for the match. Yes, Shayna Baszler and Ronda Rousey doing the match was an interesting, especially an MMA format match, but kind of getting them to do the promos, it was actually quite good. Kind of got me interested in a Ronda Rousey match, which is not typical. What did you think of Raw? What do you have to add to Raw?
Kind of piggybacking off what you were saying about Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler and the hype coming towards SummerSlam, I don't know if there's anything that Ronda Rousey could do to really get me interested. But on the flip side, you're right, it did really help build to what we would get tonight. And I really thought that for someone who had turned me off so much because she legitimately, not just in promos, but legitimately turned on the fans in real life, like,
yep,
she got me interested enough to, well, I was already interested just because I wanted to see Shayna Baszler beat her, but she did her job. She did what she was supposed to do to help create interest and create intrigue for the match.
I don't know if I'll ever buy a crying Ronda, but it did do what it needed to do in that instance to say, hey, they've got a backstory. They're giving me a little bit of meat on the bone for this match, and just saying, we're just having a match. It gives us a little more of why Shayna Baszler turned on Ronda. And I really think that helps help build for that match.
I also like the fact that they did use the picture of the 4 horsewomen of MMA. Let's remind you just how deep this well runs.
Exactly. So, not a big whole lot going on Raw. Raw was kind of a mediocre show. Wasn't the best show of the week. Wasn't the absolute worst show of the week, at least in my opinion. So, which I guess
we kind of just look at it like it was a show.
It was a show, exactly. All right, so I guess brings us to Wednesday in Dynamite, and not only was it Dynamite, it was Dynamite 200. 200 episodes or 200 shows or 200 whatever you want to call it. This was episode 200. This was the 200th time it had been on TV. Dynamite 200. Of course, they opened with the popping colors of what I felt was the NXT splashes. I was having kind of NXT 2.0 original. I don't know what we're in now, like NXT 2.1 or something. But Dynamite 2.0. It was, the matches were good. The show was okay. I felt it lacked for what they were trying to sell Dynamite 200 for. You're telling me this is a 200th show, you're making a big celebration about it. I don't feel like they put the matches on that card that really made it feel like. If you look at what's coming up next week, you're kind of like, that should have been what should have been on this show. Because I know next week we're going to have, of course, we found out this week, Jack Perry had his face-to-face with Jerry Lynn. And Jerry Lynn said, well, I'm not going to arrest you, but I know somebody who did. And so we got RVD. And, of course, a lot of the rumors is RVD versus Jack Perry at All In. Ugh. And it still not necessarily not saying it's not going to happen, but from what I have heard, this is a one-time off for RVD. RVD still under some connection with WWE as he's being advertised for something doing with WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia. So I don't know. What I'm hearing is one time off.
ECW, was born in Philadelphia. That makes perfect sense.
Yes, maybe ECW go in the Hall of Fame, but well, hey, who knows? I regress. So
Heyman will gleefully accept.
Yes, so we're gonna get Jack Perry versus RVD next week, which I think if they would have done it this week. It would at least made the 200th episode feel a little more important. You got your quick pop with RVD. I don't think RVD should be wrestling Jack Perry. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I get the FTW. I get the nostalgia trip. They did it in Impact TNA. Anytime it seems like somebody wants to bring back ECW, there's this run through the ECW alum for whatever reason. But it is a moment next week. We'll see how it goes. RVD definitely does not look like he's in his best shape. I know he's aged, but I'm hesitant. I'm just hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping this is a one-off. We don't see it at all in, because I think that's a blown spot for a big pay-per-view, which we'll get into more later. Also on that.
Here's my question out of this. Instead of RVD, why don't they use someone they had not too long ago? I think it's been maybe a month, something like that. Didn't they within the last few months have Sabu?
Yeah, Sabu was connected in there, but
he's a former FTW champion.
That's true. That would have made a little more sense. At least Sabu seems like he can go a little more hardcore, but I don't know if they want to put Jack Perry in. I think they were looking for a pop. They got RVD. It's a nostalgia trip. It's a one-off. I hope it is. Dynamite 200 was not a horrible show. Wasn't absolutely live up to what they were selling it to be. We got the Elite. They won their match against, I think, Jay Lethal, Saddam Singh, and Jeff Jarrett.
Yeah.
We did get to find out that they've renewed their contracts. They're either staying. There's more news and rumors on that stuff we'll talk about in a little bit also. We saw Jon Moxley bleed again, which is just kind of anytime Jon Moxley's on TV, he's going to bleed. I love Moxley, but I'm kind of like, okay, you got to bleed every time. I get that's kind of his gimmick character, but I'm also like, Dynamite was okay. It was better than Raw. Not the best show of the week, but it was better than Raw. What was your take on Dynamite?
I don't know if there's much more I can add to it. As much as an AEW fan I am, it is what it was.
So that brings us into Friday, where we got Rampage, where we saw the Blackpool Combat Club have a match with a minivan, mostly. They destroyed the tar out of Sue's minivan. Other than that, it was Rampage. I don't think it was it was probably, for me, the worst show. I'd probably go Rampage, Raw, Dynamite, in that order so far. But it was just Rampage. I mean, Jon Moxley bled some more. And, I forgot on Dynamite 200, we did get a new AEW Women's Champion, Shida. So we did get a title belt. That was a big moment on that show, especially with all the news and rumors about women's wrestling on and AEW not being important. All of a sudden, we're getting... this is one thing I always have about Tony Khan, when he gets hit with, like, oh, you're not doing this right. All of a sudden, it's like he overfloods the market with it. So Shida won the title. Then we had the TBS title defended tonight, Statlander. I forgot if we had a women's match on Rampage, but Rampage. But next week on Dynamite, Sheeta's defending her belt against Anna Jay. So I'm like, I feel this is Tony Khan's answer. If he gets hit with something, and all of a sudden it's like, okay, then I'm just going to shove it down your throats. And I'm like, we need to find a balance. I don't think, especially right now, you just crowned a new women's champion. I don't think she needs to defend the women's champion, especially when you have a pay-per-view coming up in less than 21 days. Right around that ballpark. I think you need to be building to whoever her opponent is on that card. I think he needs to make sure every championship is defended on that card. At least AEW championships. I don't know about all the other ones. There's a lot of belts in the company, but I think with the attendance numbers and what they're predicting, they really have to put every title on the line. They've got to blow the show out of the water. It's a must-do. Anyways, that was Dynamite. Rampage was basic. I don't know. Do you have anything to say about Rampage? Nothing really.
Well, I think Rampage has gotten better since, AEW Dark and Elevation have gone away. It's never going to be the A show. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
It's like if you like decent wrestling, I would even say good wrestling. They'll have bits of interviews or storylines, but it's basically just a wrestling show.
Yeah. And then that brought us to SmackDown, which was just a really good SmackDown for a long time. SmackDown is now, I think, leading WWE programming. I think Raw has become the B show. SmackDown is definitely the show. They continue the storyline with Jey Uso and Roman Reigns, which is great. We also got a great promo segment from Charlotte Flair and Bianca Belair, building up to their triple threat match. Some good matches going on there. We got the hype with LA Knight. We're really pushing LA Knight. To me, SmackDown was probably the second best show of the week. Everything they did was great. I think it was a really good show. I thought they brought it better going into SummerSlam than Raw did.
You would think we would have two go-home shows between Raw and SmackDown, but you're right. SmackDown was the go-home show.
Yeah, the night before, it definitely pushed everything. And, of course, that brings us to Collision, which was they actually just nailed on every point. I think Collision, again, is the A show for AEW. They brought a lot. There's a few things. I know they do that opening with all the contestants. So they had Big Bill, Prince Nana, and either Brian Cage playing his best Hawk impression or Ultimate Warrior impression. He had his whole face painted up. And it was blue and orange. It was kind of a Hawk Ultimate Warrior mix, so it was interesting. And Prince Nana called them his brawling buddies, which I was like, okay. Yeah, no, he introduced, these are my brawling buddies. Anyway,
What's the word?
Big Bill, Brian Cage versus FTR opened the show. And I guess Big Bill and Brian Cage's name are the Brawling Brawlers. I don't know if that is the name they were talking through as they came out. And the commentating team was selling them as the Brawling Brawlers.
That doesn't say bad doppelgangers.
What do you think, pal? I booked this. No, so that was that. Of course, FTR wins. FTR, we had a match, and then we had a great FTR promo. FTR, amazing promo, challenging the Young Bucks at All In for their third match. FTR selling this is the last thing we have to do in professional wrestling is to have our last match with the Young Bucks. So they've challenged the Young Bucks for All In. So that was a great moment. Collision, we had the Jay White match with Metalik, which was, I don't even know why they're even. The only thing I can complain here is, again, Tony Khan pulls these guys with big names behind them, but it doesn't seem like they live up to the hype that they're coming up in with, and I don't know if that's the characters, the writing, or Tony Khan. It's like they just don't.
Well, I mean, just the way when Metalik has been in AEW here and there, spots here and there, he's not going to be used, like a main player.
Well, I'm not looking at Metalik. I'm looking at Jay White. I mean, my thing is like Jay White has a lot of hype behind him, and they have him wrestling Metalik.
I mean, as far as skill for skill, I mean, obviously I didn't get to see the match because of my current situation of not being able to see a lot of wrestling. But I do know it's like Metalik has the skills to make it look good in the ring, but with Jay White.
Yeah.
But like right now, they're just giving Jay busy work. They're not really.
Yeah.
They don't really have a real story.
That's what I think is sad. Tony Khan has so many people, but he's not really putting them into a place where they're doing something. They're all just kind of floating around.
Yeah.
Mercedes Martinez had her TBS title shot, and there was a lot of title matches tonight, or there were 3 at least. I guess to compete with SummerSlam. So. Statlander won that one. It was great. We have a match with Diamante came out to help out Mercedes. So Diamante and Mercedes versus Statlander and Willie Nightingale next week on Collision. Joe came out and beat Serpentico in the fastest match in AEW history in less than 10 seconds. He threw this fool straight up in the air, rocked on the coquina clutch. That was it. Then Joe did what WWE would never let Joe do. Joe did what he did in Ring of Honor. Joe did what he kind of did in Impact. Joe cut a Samoa Joe promo. And he was not happy about being rolled up at a Owen Hart Classic. And he never said CM Punk's name. He just referred to, he claims he's the best in the world. Every innuendo that was Punk related, but he didn't say Punk's name until the end when he called him up Punk. So Joe has challenged CM Punk for All In, the real world champion, as we know. So, Joe Punk, all in. So that was that. We had a promo with the Acclaimed, which was really good, talking about Billy Gunn. Then they had the House of Black match, and of course CM Punk beating Absolute Ricky Starks. Ricky Starks totally goes back heel now. He beats on Ricky the Dragon Steamboat after the match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat to a belt. CM Punk jumps in and stops it. So Collision really hit every point. Made a really good show. They definitely made a somewhat of a challenge against SummerSlam. I don't think you're going to not watch SummerSlam to watch Collision. It's like I did. You're going to watch SummerSlam and then watch Collision afterwards. But these were good shows. Again, I would say Collision was probably the best, followed by a really good SmackDown, then the Dynamite, then Raw, and then Rampage. How do you feel about all that?
I can't argue against it. I'll say that much.
So news and rumors. We are going to move into a news and rumors segment here before we get to the SummerSlam recap. Lots of news and rumors going around. So it came out today that they are changing out the commentary team for both Raw and SmackDown. It looks like Wade Barrett's going to go to Raw, maybe, along with Michael Cole. Michael Cole's going to appear on both shows again, so I think we're going back to a three-man commentary team on both shows. I think Raw has been a three-man with
His name Vic Joseph, wasn't it?
Is it Vic? I don't know who the guy is anymore. Him and Corey Graves and Brian Saxton. So I guess Michael Cole is going to step into one of those positions, and Wade Barrett's going to go over there. I don't know if Corey Graves is going back to SmackDown with.
Something Patrick. I'm sorry, on Raw.
Yeah, Patrick. Anywho, shake up of the commentary team coming. So who knows what that's about? But that's in the news. So I did find this article from All Elite Wrestling News, which says this is the ideal card, or a card that is being talked about for AEW All In. Now, AEW All In has sold over 80,000 tickets. They are selling out Wembley Stadium, and we've only got one for sure written in the book match of...
That's the main event.
The main event, MJF defending the AEW World Championship against Adam Cole, Bay. And that's the one card we have. We have 21 days left before All In is supposed to kick off, and we have no other matches. And this is what I say: Tony Khan's really got to bring it. If he does not bring this as AEW's WrestleMania big card, they're selling out at over 80,000 seats. They want to get into this game. He's got to stack this card. Now, FTR taking on the Young Bucks at All In will definitely help that. Punk versus Joe will definitely help that. Is that true? I don't know. What I have here, coming from a group calling themselves All Elite Wrestling News, take it with a grain of salt, if you will. We're looking at a Battle Royal match to declare either a Battle Royal match for the Women's Championship or a Battle Royal match for the number one contender for the AEW Women's Championship. We also have John Moxley versus Orange Cassidy for the International Champion in a Lights Out match. Then we have FTR teaming with CM Punk to take on the Elite, which would be the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, which doesn't seem to be true if Punk is going to go fight Joe, which is probably a whole lot better than that matchup. Aussie Open versus the Acclaim for the Ring of Honor Tag Team titles may not actually be a bad match. Statlander versus Athena for the TBS Championship versus Championship. So I guess Athena's Ring of Honor Women's Champion.
Yes.
So she.
Or I should like to put it the Forever Ring of Honor Women's Champion.
And then they have TBS Chris Statlander. So that could be a really, really good match. I don't know what they're going to do. We'd have to wait and see. Statlander is kind of in a feud with Mercedes Martinez and now Diamante, so we'll see how that plays out over the next few weeks. And then they're going to have a stadium stampede. Supposedly, they're going to have the Don Callis family of Chris Jericho, Takahashi.
Careful with that one.
I know. And a new member to be revealed versus the former Jericho Appreciation Society members, whoever that will be. It's not telling me. I thought I knew who it was, but it doesn't say. And then they're going to have a no-holds-barred three-way match, which I thought three-way matches were pretty much no rules anyways. But they were talking about Kenny Omega versus Pac versus Will Ospreay. That could be good or bad. I don't know. And then they're talking about a tag team championship shot ladder match, which would put the Lucha Brothers versus the Best Friends versus the returning Proud and Powerful of Santana and Ortiz with Eddie Kingston back in their corner, and of course the MJF versus Adam Cole. I do not buy this after tonight's Collision, but I know Tony Khan's really got to bring it. If Tony Khan does not stack this card to a loaded level, it could hurt him. I mean, it's really 80,000. He's shooting for numbers. We know WWE's teasing to put WrestleMania there. Him going in with the limbo, I only think pushes WWE having to go do WrestleMania in London in some form or another within the next 5 years at least.
Yeah, I can buy that within the next 5 years. We just know the next WrestleMania is in Philadelphia, and then there are bids for the year after, obviously. So, but yeah, All In has to be a stacked card. It has to be their WrestleMania. There was another pay-per-view event I wanted to combine it with, but the point being is it has to be stacked. It has to be justified to have that many people there.
Yeah. No. He's selling it out without putting anything in there, and now he's kind of put himself, instead of having matches that really put him in a light where he's selling the matches, he's put himself where he's sold the venue out, and now he's got to put the matches there. So that's I think that as anybody, I think that's the worst place to be, is now you sold a bunch of seats, now you got to produce, Of course, this is what All In originally was. They sold the seats and then they filled in the cards. Can Tony Khan do it on his own? It's a wait and see. And of course, the hard part, which doesn't make sense to me, is why they would go back to back. Because now they got All In, and then the very next week we're going All Out.
Right.
So not only that, you got to build for like 2 shows in one way, and I don't know. I don't know why Tony Khan booked himself into this type of corner, because I don't know how you go All In to next week's All Out. You're going to wear out crowds, and then, I don't know where your buy rate for All Out is going to be, or your ticket sales for All Out are going to be, because, you absolutely got to blow out All In to get people to come back for All Out. If you don't blow everybody away, I don't think you're going to sell All Out. You got to do something. And he's got weeks. He's only got a couple weeks to build, and then he doesn't have any time in between really to build to All Out. So I just don't know how you do 2 pay-per-views back to back, boom bang, like that. And I think All Out's really going to hurt in its bottom line, because who has what is AEW pay-per-view, $50, $60?
That's what it has been. And I know that's what we've paid.
Yeah. So, you say $50 to $60, $100 to $120 for the next 2 pay-per-views back-to-back. That's a lot for most people to do. That's just buying the pay-per-view. How many people are going to be able to buy the tickets to go to both events? Or, go... I'm sure England, they're probably going to stay over there, but you have people traveling over there. So it's a big expense that a lot of people put in. I just know that All In's got to be all in for sure.
Absolutely.
Tony Khan has booked himself deep into a corner, and I'm worried now. Again, MJF, Adam Cole, great match. If FTR and Young Bucks do their third rubber match, and it's just them, and they do something, it's going to be a great match. And if we get Punk versus Joe is going to be... I feel sorry for everybody else, because Punk and Joe are going to absolutely tear down the house.
The thing is, they can build to both pay-per-views, or both supercards, for lack of a better term, if they wanted to. But he has to actually do it. Not having enough matches named for All In, let alone to piggyback for All Out, that's where Tony Khan is going wrong, in my opinion.
Oh, but and then who are you going to have worn out? Who's going to be injured from All In? You got a week to get everybody back from All In, back into the States, get them reacclimated and settled in. And
they're doing TV in between.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A week's worth, 3 TV shows. So, I'm like, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you got a big enough roster that you could, but you're going to miss some people. All In's got to be, all your titles at All In need to be out there. This is a big pay-per-view. You have to have
that's what I was going to say. All In needs to be their WrestleMania / Night of Champions.
Yeah.
Every title should be for that biggest, most historic,
Every title needs to be on the line that night, and big profile matches, period. Which hurts your All Out, because I'm like, I don't know if you sold out this arena, you've got to bring All In. I just don't know how you're going to keep fans invested to go all out that quickly, because you're really the card that you have to bring to live up to the hype that you're selling is so big that I think by the time All In's over, we're going to be so tired, and then we're going to try to shove another week of wrestling in there, and then you're going to show me another pay-per-view. I just don't know if you can carry the fans' enthusiasm for that long. let alone how many cliffhangers can you really put in one pay-per-view to carry over to All Out, you know? I get that you could probably have some cliffhangers in there, but how many of those can you actually do in the same night before it becomes, you know, repetitive, and then it just turns everybody away from this pay-per-view? It feels like, oh, okay, well, you're just setting everything up for All Out because you can't do it, you know.
There's got to be some payoff at All In, and hopefully some payoffs at All Out. How they do it, I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I know Tony Khan's put himself in a corner, and he's got to book this All In, and I don't know how he's going to do All Out.
I mean, smaller companies do it all the time with back-to-back, you know, nights. Mm-hmm. But yeah, on such a grand scale that AEW has in its hands, I don't understand why Tony Khan hasn't taken the time he needs to prepare the audience to be able to, you know, be interested in both cards.
Building anything, you know, and people say, "Oh, Tony Khan builds long-term storylines." I'm like, he's got a couple.
Yes and no.
He's got a couple, but not a whole lot. Not enough to fill in all the other gaps.
Because what those fans mean is that he builds off of the backs of, you know, previous events.
Yeah.
So it's like, in a sense, yes, but he doesn't build it in the way that on a weekly basis makes sense.
No, he's not building storylines that carry through, that keep you invested, except maybe a few. Like the MJF storyline with Adam Cole right now, yes, that's a long-term booking. He's doing good at that. We see where that goes. But, I mean, that's great, but you're not... You have MJF and Adam Cole. Cool. But where's the next person you're putting in line when Adam Cole loses or MJF loses, whatever your direction is? Who's next? And that's where I'm looking at it going, you're not really giving me the example of who's sitting in the wings, even if it's a couple guys that we can point at, you know, without being repetitive. You can't go back to a Moxley. You can't necessarily go back to, I guess you could start going back to an Omega. I don't think you can go back to a Jericho at this point. But you got to be real careful about that. And of course, now he's opened sort of a new storyline with the AEW World Champion and then the real World Champion. So I'm like, I don't know. We
don't know if that's leading to an eventual unification or if that's going to become a completely separate belt at some point.
Yeah.
We don't know where that's headed yet.
So there's a lot of things there. It's like he uses certain people and then they kind of fade away. It's just so hard. And another thing I noticed, Aleister Black with no facial hair is just a weird look for me. But hey, you know, to each their own. Anyways, from there, let's, I guess, sticking with AEW news, the women's locker room, the big blow-up feud in AEW's locker room, Lufisto and her comments, Britt Baker's backlash and all this. I mean, this has been Tony Khan getting hit again, saying the women's locker room is, you know, it's not being booked right, not giving a fair chance, that there's political games being played in the background, that Britt Baker has this control over the women's locker room, blah, 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 blah. Your spinner take, what do you have to add?
Let me read to you MJF's tweet on the deal. If you listen to miserable people who never made it in this sport, that's not exactly the brightest thing to do. Use your brain. If someone's been in professional wrestling for over and you find them to be talented but never truly panned out, there's a reason for it. 1, lack of talent. 2, difficulty to work with. 3, delusional. Just to name a few. People love to talk ill of companies and will say things like, I'm the only person who's brave enough to speak up. When in reality, the only reason you're speaking bullshit is spewing bullshit because you are aware deep down you aren't going to make it. So what's the harm in spewing reckless lies and trying to hurt hard-working, talented people on your way down to obscurity? We have an amazing women's locker room. Sorry, not sorry. Here's where I take issue with MJF's comments. Lufisto doesn't have a lack of talent. She's very good at what she does. But you have to be able to watch independent wrestling and have followed her career in that respect to know that. She has not made it in TV wrestling. So we're talking about she hasn't made it in WWE, AEW, TNA, etc. So in that respect, the mass audience don't know her. But in professional wrestling as a business, she is well known and well liked and well respected. Now, is she a difficulty to work with? I don't know. Not behind the scenes. I couldn't tell you. Um, or is she delusional? Again, don't know. But my question is, how do you define success? Because, like I said, she hasn't been a TV wrestler. I mean, she's had spots here and there, but she's not known by the mass audiences for not being a mainstay TV wrestler.
Well, and I know some people are pointing out this is kind of the third report of some issues going. We had the Thunder Rosa report. I forget who the other person, but this is like the third time somebody's complained about the AEW locker room being mistreated, not being used right. And granted, I don't know about the political aspects of it. I don't know if there's any truth to some of this stuff. There may not be. My thing goes to this: has Tony Khan been using them correctly? And I go, at times, yes and no. And again, it goes back into this thing. When Tony Khan gets hit with something of saying, oh, you're not doing this right, all of a sudden it's like he throws it all out there because we've got, Sheeta just won the women's champion from Toni Storm. We had Statlander, who hadn't really been on TV, defend the TBS championship tonight on Collision. Now we have Sheeta facing Anna Jay next week. And then, we have Statlander, Will Nightingale against Mercedes Diamante next week on Collision. So it's like all of a sudden, the women's division's not being used, let's shove the women out there. And it's like, that's great, but if you're not really building storylines or building this somewhere, I get haters out, so the misfits in action, the outcasts, whatever their names are.
The outcasts.
You can't do a whole lot with them because you can't continue that storyline, but somebody goes down, you got to be able to pick up the pieces and add in new storylines or focus on new storylines and build, different stars until you can get back to that, depending on how long that injury is. Because if that injury's 6 months, a year, that storyline might be dead to the audience. Yes, you can kind of go back and revitalize it, but it may not be a storyline you want to follow through anyways because other things have changed the directions of other things. So
absolutely.
Again, I think
if you care enough about Lufisto's the way she sees things on Fightful, Sean Ross Sapp did an interview with her, and it's on their YouTube channel. You can get how she feels about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Here's where I'm going to see if I can find her response to after a bunch of people in AEW had responded to her.
Well, I did read that she deleted her Twitter.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, here it is. Good that everybody at AEW got the memo to write as much shit on me as possible so I can be seen as a waste of human being, not worth living, even people who never had a single conversation with me. And she does go on to go further, but the point is, she's over dramatic about it. It's like, no one talks shit about her as a person. They said, no, you were wrong, this is not how it is in our locker room. But they never, it's like she, as much as the bits I have seen of Lufisto, like I said, she is a professional as far as in the ring. But I'm starting to think the human behind her, or behind that character, might be more dramatic than the damn character.
Yeah. And I think this is where I start to grow a problem with AEW. There's too much drama in AEW. Now, granted, WWE has its drama. It leaks out every once in a while. But when it comes to WWE drama, it is handled. It is squashed. It is, it's taken into control, whether it's wiped away or pushed away or people are fired, whether it's right or wrong about how they handle it. WWE don't let that, just keep creeping and keep building, where Tony Khan just kind of lets these people with all this crap, and it really can hurt the brand to some people's eyes because it's like, okay, I'm tired of hearing about the drama. Of course, we're in a different day and age where drama is spewed all over the internet and put out there. So it's easier to get that, and then people like us and everybody else out there in the IWC is going to talk about it because that's what we're here to do. We're going to talk about something. We're going to find out, investigate it. For us, we're going to talk about it and say, this is what we know. Whether it's true or false, we don't know. We don't have hard evidence facts. If we do ever have hard evidence facts, and we'll tell you this is a fact. But that's what we do because people want to listen. But at the same time, I feel like WWE has a little better control over that, where Tony Khan just kind of lets it go. I mean, the Punk issue, I'm sorry, I love Punk, and I kind of I think Punk was wrong in the way he handled it. But again, I think Tony Khan, in that moment, looked like a buffoon. I can't believe you let somebody in your company start doing that without saying, hey, cut him off, going, no, not here, or saying timeout, let's go talk and step off the mic. I know it's the middle of your scrum. I know that it's something that you've added in that's really popular and people like to watch it. But I'm sorry, at some point you got to step up as the boss, as the owner of the company. Go, look, you're dredging into somewhere that I don't know what it's going to bring. Tony Khan I feel like Tony Khan lets too much happen without, saying, hey, this stuff's got to be done, or we're going to, start cutting people or something, because it's drama's great to talk about, but when it's just like all the time, you're just like, okay.
But also look at the difference. WWE has a corporate culture that's ran like an actual corporation, where the people who kind of bust on Tony Khan, he runs it like a fanboy to a degree.
Well, he is a fanboy, and we know that, and that's my big...
Which is fine to a degree, and that's what I kind of like about Tony Khan, to a degree, because it's different. Instead of being a character on the television show, you know more or less everything is real about Tony Khan in the scrums, because it had nothing to do with the wrestling program. It's talking about it and it's promoting it, but I think people
like him for his fanboy, but at the same time,
you can only let it go so far, especially on camera. It's like because he's a fanboy, he's very relatable, and that's what the people who like Tony Khan, that's why they like him. Because there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of as fans, the kind of camaraderie we share with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But as a boss, he's got to do what he's got to do to keep his product as professional as possible, especially if whether he wants to be just the alternative or whether he wants to compete toe-to-toe the way WCW did with WWE. He's got to keep a certain sense of professionalism.
Well, if he doesn't want to be the secondary company, which we'll get into a little more in the way, he has to step up. I love the fact that he's a fanboy and he loves wrestling. That means he's passionate about it. But even if I were given the reins of wrestling, I know I have to, if I had the chance to run a wrestling company as a fanboy, I would like to see a lot of the people I love and do things with. But I would also have to understand that, I'd have to get down to business and do what's best for business. But also I would need to put people around me that know what's going on, that are going to do the right things. I'd pick people, even if I don't agree with them. I mean, a lot of people don't agree with Jim Cornette, but Jim Cornette does have a great mind for the business.
Sure.
I mean, it's kind of like Vince Russo had a great mind for the business in WWE, and he was controlled by Vince when they let him go free on.
He has a great mind for writing. I don't know if he has a great mind for business.
Okay, he has a great mind for stories. When he went to WCW, I don't know. He got too big. He got too egotistical for his own good. But I mean, to me, it's like Tony Khan needs to put people around him and build a team around him that are going to help him become, so he can put people in place to take care of these issues. It just seems like Tony wants to be in charge of everything, and he's a fanboy, and he pops for his buddies, and it's kind of like the new toy thing. And Vince does it too, but Vince does it kind of in a different way. That he tries to get people over, and if he gets bored with them, he pushes them aside. But Tony just gets like excited with something, and then the next toy, I mean, he almost comes out a little ADD, because it's like the whole squirrel. He's like, Wardlow, oh, squirrel, who's this?
Lord.
Jack Perry, yay, Jack! I'm like, So, and then he has the constant, it's like everybody flips face heel, and I know in AEW they're kind of like, we're not really face or heel, but I mean, it's like, you have to have some of this face heel storyline to build stories to keep people interested. Wrestling for wrestling's sake is great, but in long term, for the mass audience...
It's a Ring of Honor show, not an AEW show.
Huh?
Wrestling for wrestling's sake is a Ring of Honor show, not an AEW show.
Well, and
that's... Not TV wrestling.
And that's the thing. You can do wrestling for wrestling's sake, but you're not going to get the bigger chunk of the audience that you want. You're not going to be competitive, because that's not what the audience wants. And the other aspect of casual viewers of all wrestling, you have to give them something to come in and go, ooh, I want to see what's going on here. And I think, Tony Khan needs to really... I'm glad Tony Khan's banned some moves. I know some of those moves need to go away. And I think Tony Khan needs to kind of control some of the wild, crazy... I know people love the big pop moments, but it's like every week somebody's doing one of these moves, and I'm just like, somebody's going to get hurt again. I mean, we have a lot of people that get hurt in AEW really quick, and I'm like, at some point you got to go, okay, why is this, and what can we do differently so this is not a problem? How do we stop all the blah, 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 the rumors, the explosions, the locker room drama from spilling so far out, or do we drag that back in,
Going back to banned moves, though, we're still wondering how the hell Sting is still alive when he's doing his best Jeff Hardy impressions.
There's just, I don't know. They do so much. It's like Moxley bleeding every week. I get the character's supposed to kind of be like that, but even at it, it's like, do you? I mean, you love Moxley. I love Moxley, but do I really want to see him bleed every week? I know there's people out there that want to see that. That's just their thing. But is that the overall majority of the audience? You know, does that just? Yeah.
Getting color has its purposes, but that should really be saved more for pay-per-views or certain specific, storyline beats, shows, whatever.
If it makes sense, like the matches,
Right.
wrestling's wrestling great, but this is also the match should still also tell a story. Just to bleed for bleeding's sake, just to have a hard. There's just so much hardcore. It's just like, okay, can we bring it back? Because it's like and again, Tony Khan has all these wild matches. It's like, how does he sell an All In again if he has his title matches every week? He has a different title match. So I'm like, that's great in some ways, but at the same time, if you don't build the prestige of that title to get to a pay-per-view where you're going to see this champion really face off against somebody who deserves it, but you've seen the champion face, 3 or 4 guys in the weeks building up to it that were nobodies, it's like, great, but it's like a title match. I mean, why
You get desensitized to it.
Yeah, and it depreciates the value of that title, and I'm just like, how do you get people? If I can watch Dynamite every week and see a title match, then why am I going to buy a pay-per-view unless it's a really, really good match that I want to see? Luckily with MJF, he's not defending the world championship as much, but a while there it was like the world champion. It's like, this match, it was like the TNT championship was on every week. Of course, right now I think it's the Orange Cassidy International Championship. I get a fighting champion, but also it loses that value when they're defending it every week against somebodies, like.
I mean, like, if you have a TV title or whatever, that's one thing. That's supposed to be a lower card title anyways, so it's like you're not worried about it. But your main title and your secondary title, yeah, I agree with you completely. People should be built up to get to that point, to create the interest, to create that super match, or for the super card or whatever.
So, moving on, let's rewrap to All In. So supposedly Jeff Jarrett's been over in the UK making his rounds, hyping up All In, doing talk radio and all that stuff. And so I guess in the last few days he had a talk segment with Grado. Grado, a well-known British Indies wrestler who's done a lot over there for the indie wrestling groups. So I guess he was on the air. They were doing a lot of sports talk radio, and he had I guess they had a segment with him and Grado. Grado being this British Indies superstar over there, big star over there. I guess he's done a lot for the Indie Federation, Indies in England, Britain, the UK, all over there. Big name, beloved over there. So he said something wrong to Jarrett, and Jarrett crashed a guitar over his head. And rumors speculate that now Jarrett will take on Grado at All In Wembley Stadium. And I just have flashbacks to Impact or TNA. I don't know which era that was, but yeah. I don't know how to feel about it. I'm not a diehard fan. I know you're a little more of a fan of seeing Jarrett on TV. I'm kind of like, I don't need to see Jarrett wrestling all the time. In a trios or a tag match, I kind of get it. And just seeing Jarrett one-on-one, I'm over it.
I think where I derive my pleasure is because there is so much fan hate against, like, they look at Jarrett back when his TNA days when he was constantly world champion. It's like, that's been how many years ago? It's like, I understand a lot of us, including myself, had Jarrett burnout. But the fact that he's still doing what he's doing at his age, at this point in his career, he's still able to get that heat. Like, I enjoy it for that reason.
It just seems like he's on every week, and I'm just kind of like, I think there's other people that could use that spot. If you want to use him as a pay-per-view or a big spot, or he gets in the ring as a spectacle, then I'm okay with it. But I'm just like, I don't need to see Jarrett wrestling every week. And of course, when I see him with Jay Lethal, then I just have flashbacks to TNA. And I love Lethal, and I think Lethal could be great, and I think Lethal needs to get away from Jarrett and Saddam Singh. Like, I get how they got him there, but I'm like, Jay Lethal could be doing so much more. I mean, there's so many other guys.
When they signed Lethal, I thought they were going to do more and different with him than they have. I completely understand. I
there's
agree.
I could see him going against a Jay White or a Kenny Omega or any of these other guys that he could be really getting into, and I'm just feeling like him being associated with Jarrett and Saddam Singh, and Saddam Singh's never really going to be what anybody thought. He's going to be he's just the big giant guy that's there that they really can't get over in wrestling anymore. Andre the Giant was it was a once in a lifetime thing. You're never really going to have the super giant like that. Now, Paul White was a big guy. He fit into that giant category, but he wasn't comparable to Andre in some ways. But Paul White was great at what he did. Undertaker and Kane, they were good, but they weren't really giants. The Saddam Singh, he's a giant. I get that. It's a spectacular. You don't use him. If you use him as a spectacular, that's once in a while, then it might be okay. But just him there, it just doesn't work. And so I'm just like, I think Jay Lethal could be doing more. I think Jarrett should be doing like a Don Callis thing, building a family around the Jarrett family, or a group that he's kind of the manager of. I mean, he could even do a variation of a horseman group, as far as I care, for whatever name he wants to do it, and bringing up younger stars with him, than just kind of like it doesn't serve a purpose. I'm like, what is Jarrett doing? Jarrett doesn't make Lethal better. Lethal may make Jarrett a little better, but I'm like, they're not doing anything for each other that's lifting them anywhere. They're just kind of this comedy kind of filler mid-card guys, and I'm just like, yeah.
Let me ask you this though: would you call Satnam Singh AEW Omos?
Pretty much. I mean, he's a tall guy, and nobody knows what to do with giants in wrestling anymore. I don't think fans are really into it. It's impressive. It's more impressive when you physically see them, and you're like, oh, holy shit. But I don't think we're in that day and age. We're far removed from the superhero wrestlers of the 80s, like the golden era where me and you were kids, and we grew up with the Hulk Hogans and the Ultimate Warriors, the Macho Man Randy Savages, and the Andre the Giants, and the Earthquakes, and the King Kong Bundys, and these oversized behemoths of men that took really big superheroes like Hulk Hogan, the Slam, Andre the Giant. Why was that impressive? Because that was the day and age of that nostalgia. Now we're in an era where we've gone through the golden era, we've gotten into the attitude era where everything really got flipped upside down, to where we are today in a wrestling world. Why Vince McMahon doesn't understand? Because Vince McMahon doesn't get this wrestling. We're into the average, everyday, where if we look at it today, if I was 20 years younger watching this today, I'd probably say, you know what, I could actually go do that and feel like I fitted in more than I would have when I was a kid watching a Hulk Hogan and an Ultimate Warrior and looking at the big guys going, I wish I could be there,
Well, you have to look at professional wrestling the difference between, say, 80s metal was, then when grunge came in, I said, oh, that's more like the average person.
Yeah.
Who can, who's done the training and can do it.
Yeah. So it's hard for me to look at an Omos and go, it's trying to bring back this nostalgia-y feel of like, oh, there's a giant that's incredibly giant, and he's going to take over, and what are they going to do? And then we see these, and then nobody builds a giant, right? I mean, they're not bringing them in to be unstoppable, demolishing forces. Like, Saddam Singh hasn't been brought in that way. Almost sort of was brought in that way, but they dropped the ball, and now they're just kind of there. It's kind of like tonight at SummerSlam. But I digress. I don't want to get too deep into that yet. Later. But, I mean, it's like, if you're going to bring a big guy in like that, you've got to bring him in right. Saddam Singh was brought in wrong. We all know that. Yeah, Tony Khan got booed and hissed, and it was bad. And Saddam Singh, it's just, yeah. Now, Saddam Singh, when it came with just like Sanjay Dutt, we might have been over, and Sanjay Dutt may have been able to sell him as a singles guy. But again, he'd have to decimate everybody along the way, But you lost that.
Short matches and decimation, you're right.
But if you don't book a giant, to be dominant, to be unbeatable, it's really not going to do anything. And we're past the giant era. I don't think you could bring in a giant that people are really going to buy into. Because I think AEW, or not, AEW, but WWE, WCW, in some other brands, and AEW have tried to bring the giants in, and then they failed to do anything with them. And so I think us as fans are just like, okay, the giant, that's another giant. And of course we're bringing in people
that... I think the idea of a giant works, but you have to book it right. And none of these companies really have.
They're finding the tallest guy they can and go, hey, come become a wrestler. Give him like 8 weeks training and then throwing him in a ring as green as anything and expect them to get over it. I'm just like, no.
It takes time and good creative.
Yeah, they got to be treated like a nostalgia. They got to be there every once in a while. It's got to fill a purpose, and almost hasn't done it. Saddam Singh definitely hasn't done it, and it's just, to me, it's been a joke. And he's just running around with Jarrett and Lethal, and I'm just like, nothing there. There's just not. They're there, which is just like, I need to feel like they have a purpose. And maybe if Jarrett had a purpose, or I felt like it was leading to something, I might be more understandable to Jarrett being around every week or being more active. But right now, I'm just like, it's just, yeah. It's just to get a guitar shot on TV at somebody. I mean, it's just, and him versus Grado at All In, I'm like, no. No.
That's a TV match, not a Supercard match.
No. No,
sure.
not All In. Definitely not. And I don't even need to see Jarrett versus Grado because it's just a throwback to Impact or TNA or whatever. It's just.
But think about how long ago was that? How many people actually watched TNA back then that's watching AEW now? It's like, I don't think.
Then who knows Grado other than the fans and.
Well, that's the thing. They're placating to the home audience.
And that's great.
Obviously.
But why? I mean, give him somebody that's at least. I'd be happier if he was Grado versus Orange Cassidy for an international title. Because then you could go into All Out and do Moxley versus Orange Cassidy. I mean, we don't need really Moxley and Orange Cassidy at All In. If you want to give a pop, why not that? Because that's what you've been using the International Championship for. Orange Cassidy and Grado would be two great dynamics because of both of the comedy aspects they could play. And you could, it would be viable that maybe Grado wins, maybe Grado loses. We don't know. I mean, if you could go anywhere. Why not have Grado face Samoa Joe for the Ring of Honor TV Championship as a one-off? Yeah, he may lose, but he might be able to give us a good match and against Joe, and there's some nostalgia there. I mean, I just don't get Jarrett. I mean, it's like Jarrett doesn't do anything for me. I mean, I think it's Grado going over Jarrett because he's going to be the fan favorite, get the pop. Of course, I don't know if that's an all-in match. I mean, why not just have Grado show up, come down to the ring, and do something? Even if it's a throw-together match, like he comes down, he's doing his Grado thing, somebody comes out to challenge him, an absolute Ricky Stark or some other heel that's just like annoyed. I don't care. A QT Marshall can come down and be like, this guy's annoying. He doesn't need to be out here. What are you doing ruining this show?
Right.
It's just, yeah, I don't know. I get there's a following with him over there, but...
And you have to be kind of an older fan who watched TNA to even see him on U.S.
Yes, so
airways.
I don't know how many U.S. people are going to get over there, but again, the people who are going to be buying that pay-per-view, is that a match that's going to sell a pay-per-view? Not really. You're going to look at great.
No. I mean, is it... I think they'll do good work if that winds up being the match, but yeah, that's not a selling point.
No. Other AEW news is that the Elite have re-signed. It came down to, from what I understand, and I think this came from Sean Ross Up, it was a vote. It was a vote, and AEW won. So I don't know if this was a vote. I don't know if it was like a coin flip. It just sounded like they came down to the last moment and said yes. Now, that's a big deal. AEW making sure they keep the Elite was a huge deal and a huge game for AEW. If they would have lost the Elite, all 4 members of the Elite, to WWE, I'd have to agree with some other people out there in the IWC and say that might have been the death of AEW.
I completely disagree. Would it be a major blow? Yes. I don't think it would be the death nail because they still have such a good roster.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I think it would definitely be a hurting piece.
I'll give you that.
If they would all be gone. If they were all going to be gone, because then they would have gone to WWE. Kenny Omega would have definitely been pushed. The Bucks would have been pushed highly. I don't know where Paige would have fallen in all that. He might have got lost. He might have got lost in the shuffle, but I mean, he would have been a great. He would be great right now to put into a U.S. title, Intercontinental title zone for a little bit before you brought him up to the world title. Because you definitely be pushing Kenny right to the forefront of all that. Of course, you have so many great matches because you could have Kenny Omega and Shinsuke Nakamura. You could have Kenny Omega and AJ Styles pick up a few, and there's plenty of other people that Seth Rollins and Kenny Omega would be awesome. Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. I mean, there's so much you could have done there. So. But the Elite are staying in AEW for the time being. We don't know. It's a multi-year deal. I've heard 3-4 years. Don't know for sure. We'll see as more information comes out. Now, one thing that was stated in all this is now the Young Bucks are the largest paid tag team in wrestling history. Period. Whatever contract they signed is the largest for any tag team in wrestling history. Period. And the words that have been thrown out there are that they are making Nash and Hall money. Now, what does Nash and Hall money mean today? Because Nash and Hall money was about 20, 25 years ago in WCW, and they were making the most money in WCW because they got contracts. If anybody came in after them that made more than them, then they had to be bumped up. So Nash and Hall had huge contracts back then. What their contract value would be today with inflation and the value of the dollar, I mean, that takes a lot of mathematics. I don't know how to break that down. Don't want to even get into all that mathematics. That's a little too much.
You have someone like Brandon Thurston who does the whole WrestleNomics stuff.
So that's the fact. So how much the Bucks are getting paid, I don't know, but they're supposed to be getting Nash and Hall money. Now, when you say something like that to me, they're getting paid Nash and Hall money. I'm not going to actually compare the value of those contracts dollar for dollar because it's different time eras. But if you're saying Nash and Hall, if you're comparing it to Nash and Hall money to today, and I look at it and go, so they're getting more than what Nash and Hall were worth at that time period. So what did Nash and Hall do in that time period, and what should the Bucks be doing if they're being compared in that market or in that idea? And I'm going, Nash and Hall changed the landscape of wrestling. Part of that luck, part of that timing, I get. Part of that was the storyline of the NWO, and that fans bought into it. Part of that was Eric Bischoff was very bright to compete with WWE, but bring something different and let these guys kind of come in unannounced, come from the outside. I mean, it was the best storyline in professional wrestling that we've seen, period. So I look at the Young Bucks going, okay, if you're being compared to Nash and Hall, and they were true needle movers. They changed the landscape of wrestling. They helped mold and create the NWO. They helped create Sting. They had a lot going on. I'm like, the Bucks have to bring that type of needle moving. They have to bring it. The Bucks they were great. They kind of been semi-great. They really, ever since the Punk issue at All Out last year and the return of the Bucks and Kenny Omega, I just don't feel that they're the same Bucks or these great Bucks. I don't know. I don't know if you can say they're Nash and Hall comparable. I mean, unless they do something to move that needle and really get into this and bring out a revitalizing Young Bucks, in some form or another. I just feel like, and it's just them. It's not like Kenny Omega or Hangman Page. So I don't know what they're getting paid, but the big synopsis is that the Young Bucks are making Hall and Nash money. They're making the most money ever, and I'm like, well, if they're making the most money ever, then they need to be living up to that hype or living up to that value, however you want to put it.
So like we were saying off air, first of all, we don't know if this is one contract or two, if it's the talent contract and the EVP contract, if they're still EVPs, which obviously we don't know.
We don't even know.
So my question on top of that is, what do you think the Young Bucks could do to be compared to Hall and Nash, to be needle movers? Any theories, any possibilities?
I don't know if I know anything offhand. I just know where they are right now. They just kind of feel stagnant. Like, they're not doing anything to me to make them super over. I know they're over in a way, but I mean, to be needle movers, they need to do stuff and be over the top, and they need to draw the eyes over. That's what Hall and Nash did. They drew the eyes over. They changed the landscape of wrestling. They made WCW partly, 83 weeks, the number one destination in professional wrestling. The Bucks got to bring that in some form or another, whether that's helping getting other stars over majorly, or putting on some of the best matches, or getting into a storyline that really gets people invested, instead of just being the Bucks that flippy flop and use the tack boot and
right,
do these things. I'm like, they need to bring something. I mean, everything I heard about the Bucks, Kenny Omega from New Japan Pro Wrestling to where they are in AEW. In the beginning of AEW, I felt a little bit, but recently I just don't feel they're that same caliber of stars. And again, I don't know. Tony Khan doesn't seem. I don't know. Ever since the fallout of All Out, I don't know if the EVPs, even if they are EVP, I don't even know if they're EVPs. Yes, we know in name they're EVPs. Are they actually doing anything as EVPs? I don't know anymore because it feels like Tony Khan took so much away. And I feel after All Out, even with them coming back, I don't feel like they're still in the same graces as Tony Khan. And I think that was a big deal of what might have led, because I'm thinking, why would they leave AEW? AEW gives them everything they want. They still want to be able to go over to New Japan, especially Kenny Omega. They go to WWE. Under Triple H ran WWE, they might have been still able to wrestle in New Japan. If they were talking to Triple H, they might have still had that opportunity. Vince still hanging around, I don't think they would have gotten that.
Nope.
But the fact of the matter that these 4 guys, the Elite, even took the time to really listen to WWE, as big as it was, from what I'm understanding, is it really just came down to a majority vote. Like, they had enough there that they actually had to have some type of sit-down debate between the 4 of them on what they were going to do, and AEW went out for whatever reason. We don't know the full reason. But the fact of the matter is that they were considering WWE strong enough. I mean, they're giving up their EVP positions if they go to WWE. Now, we don't know what Cody hinted at something. Cody said there was some personal something in his documentary about why he left. And Cody doesn't feel bad about leaving. It wasn't a hard decision about leaving. He left. But I'm thinking Kenny and the Young Bucks and Hangman Page, this is still their baby too. For them to leave to go to WWE, there still had to be something there. And I feel since All Out, they haven't been like in the good graces of Tony Khan, and they just kind of been floundering. And I'm like, I don't know.
I don't know if they haven't been in the good graces of Tony Khan, but what I will say is they get it done in the ring just fine. I feel like their weaknesses are promos and storytelling outside the ring.
Yeah.
You know, something like you said that draws people in.
Well,
they are kind of resting on their laurels from New Japan, but that wasn't just the Elite. That was the overall Bullet Club.
Yeah.
That they kind of also they put their work in. Don't get me wrong, but that was a much bigger project.
But they put in real work. I mean, they actually got stuff going on with it. I mean, they were talked about nonstop. The Bucks, Omega.
Also consider this too, though. They weren't doing weekly TV at that point.
No, I know.
So they didn't have to do as much.
Well,
where we're talking now American weekly TV, you really have to have a whole big team behind you.
Well, I understand that. But again, maybe they don't need to do TV every week. Maybe they don't need to be in the spotlight. Again, if they get people around and push these other people, then maybe that's what they do. I mean, they could do something like Hall and Nash in the background that gets people's eyes on the program as EVPs. I'm just saying they need to bring something to the table that shows me they're worth the value that has been set out here. If they're the highest paid tag team in all of professional wrestling, then I need to feel that they are the greatest tag team in professional wrestling.
Now, is it all of professional wrestling or just AEW?
All of professional wrestling history. Period. They've got the biggest contracts of tag team in professional wrestling.
So they know what WWE contracts are. They know. Like,
I don't know how they can determine that. I mean, this came out of the, I mean, Sean Ross is at Fightful's camp. I mean, that's where I'm hearing some of this information, that this is a big deal. And I feel that they should be the best tag team. If you're being paid to be as the highest grossing tag team, then you need to be the best tag team. And they're not even the best tag team in AEW. FTR.
I disagree with you, but I'm not one of them.
I don't think I think FTR is better. I think FTR is better promo-wise. I think FTR is better storyline-wise, and I think they're better in the ring.
They're the modernization of everything we loved back in the 80s.
So
Plus, they can also hang with the present-day tag teams and interest.
And I think teams like the Acclaim are great. I think the House of Black has a great run there. I think they're finally getting the Gun Club moving in the right direction where they're not so ha-ha, stupid, funny dumbasses. Like they're still kind of got their ha-ha, but they're a little more serious. Especially now that they're with, I don't know if they're Bullet Club Gold or the Bang Bang Club or whatever Jay White calls it.
Okay, so the official is Bullet Club Gold.
Yes, but I don't know.
They also call themselves the Bang Bang Club.
Are they actually affiliated with Bullet Club Gold?
They are officially Bullet Club Gold members. So but you have to say like gold at the end. Because you just say Bullet Club, then you're talking the New Japan property.
No, I know. They're Bullet Club Club, which is giving them a little bit of rub to make them a little serious. They're still kind of goofy, I get, but they're getting a little more over, and I feel they're getting there. But the Acclaim are amazing tag team. But I don't. FTR is definitely the best tag team in AEW to me, not the Bucks.
I understand.
And I think the Bucks need to bring that. Now FTR versus the Young Bucks, great. The Young Bucks versus Hardys next week on Dynamite. I'm kind of like, That's another big pay-per-view match that you could actually make interesting. I don't know why you're going to give it to me on a Dynamite. And that's what hurts. It's like you give great caliber matches that you could be building to. Like FTR versus Young Bucks at All In. All Out, Young Bucks versus the Hardy Brothers. I mean, Young Bucks want to be the best tag team in professional wrestling. They need to go against all the legitimate tag teams and kind of like a journey of the revitalizing them. You know, let's go through FTR. Let's go through the Young Bucks, you know. Or go through the Hardys, excuse me. So, but right now I look at FTR as the best tag team. Just as much as I look at Collision as the better show than Dynamite. All right. I don't think there's anything else to cover in AEW news. I think we covered all AEW news. So let's jump over to some WWE news. Bobby Roode was supposedly in Detroit, and he is now going to be working in WWE as a producer role, or a, let's see what the story here says. Actually, where are we? There we go. An agent role, right? Let's see. Bobby Roode says...
Agent producer, kind of the same thing.
PW Insider reports that Bobby Roode is in Detroit because he will be helping out as a producer. The role will carry on to Raw on Mondays as well. So now he is in a supposed producer role. Does this mean a permanent thing? Is this the end of Bobby Roode's in-ring activity? I don't know. He did recently go through 2 neck surgeries. So I don't know where that stands for him. Hopefully, I hope he can get back in the ring. I think it's a loss for WWE. I think Bobby Roode could have really, with the right people behind him, could have been a next Triple H-esque character. So I wish the best. If he's a producer, that's great. I hope he stays around. Maybe they can use him as a manager to recreate a new faction around him, because he's great on the mic. Bobby Roode is really great on the mic, very intellectual. He hits those levels of like Chris Jericho in one of his WWE runs where he was the intellect and, you know, used the words and stuff. I mean, Roode could really be a great heel manager if allowed the opportunity.
I completely agree. And, you know, the fact that his NXT run has been his best WWE run thus far is kind of sad.
No, I know.
Because he has so much that he can offer the main roster. That tag team with Dolph Ziggler, I mean, it was kind of interesting for a little bit, but you knew it wasn't going to really go anywhere, unfortunately.
The Dirty Dogs, another group that needed some body wash. All right, let's talk about the big news going on in professional wrestling right now. Where in the world is Vince McMahon, pal? It looks like Vince McMahon went under July 21st. He went in for spinal surgery, had some major spinal surgery, and is now indefinitely out. And I always say indefinitely because everything I've read, he's not doing anything.
There's
right
no
now.
timetable for him to come back.
Yeah, there's no timetable, and he's out. Doesn't mean he can't call in. He is on a leave of absence.
Leave of absence.
And while that was going on, he was, what some people will say, raided by the authorities on a search warrant and subpoena. The federal subpoena was served to Vince McMahon along with the search warrant. So it looks like Vince McMahon is again in some deep, deep trouble, and I think this refers to federal allegations of what he was doing with the money, since I guess he, as I understand, he used some of the money from WWE to pay off his NDA people, his money for these women not to talk about his dirty deeds that obviously were not done dirt cheap. So
I was going to make the same joke.
It looks like Vince is in the deep hot water, and part of me is like, well, you know, hey, hopefully if he goes away. But this could hurt Vince. Now, as I understand it, when the initial deal between WWE and Endeavor went through, it was agreed upon.
Well, the thing is, it still hasn't closed officially yet.
No, it hasn't closed officially yet. It's still hanging in the balance. But a part of that agreement, as I understand it, since Vince and I don't know the guy's name that's the head of Endeavor. I think it's Ari something.
Sounds familiar, man. I'd have to go back and look at
I have
it.
to go back. I don't know his name. I look back. But anyways, I believe, if I read this correctly, and I forgot where exactly I read this, it might have been Sean Ross Sapp and Fightful, but I believe Vince McMahon signed a 2-year deal to stay on as executive, head of executive and everything, and stay in his role. It would at least give him 2 years in a contract with Endeavor to stay in that position until things were figured out. But again, WWE has just announced their second quarterly earnings, and that was released, and then Vince has had the surgery. And WWE has issued a memo to all employees announcing the subpoena and search, and McMahon is currently on leave. So he's been historically quiet and denied all involvement in these matters. But and I believe this came from a grand jury. So this was a grand jury. For anybody who doesn't know and doesn't understand, a grand jury, they polled people. They polled people of Vince McMahon's peers and presented evidence, and of course in this it's not overwhelming evidence. I mean, it's not like they don't have to go in there and exactly prove 100% he did this like a criminal court case where it's got to be beyond a shadow of a doubt. So there's going to be a reasonable doubt in a grand jury indictment. So this is a jury that they pull in and they present their evidence to. The federal, in this case, would be the feds. The federal government would come in front of a jury of Vince McMahon's peers, our peers. It's just people that got called in. They would present their case. They would tell them, this is what we believe happened. This is what evidence we have, and we need approval to go in to find this stuff or subpoena him. It's not just the federal government just went to a judge. Now, normally in a subpoena they'd go before a judge, but I understand this was a grand jury, so they brought a jury in, showed them everything, and the grand jury approved a subpoena and a search warrant. And so that to me is it says a lot. That says they have something, whether it's a whole percent, enough to convict him on anything, I don't know. But it definitely seems like Vince McMahon is in some hot water. I don't know if this is, between the spinal surgery and this and everything else, I don't know if karma is finally catching up to Vince McMahon. And Vince McMahon,
the old phrase, where there's smoke, there's fire.
So Vince McMahon has proven
something's happening. How well and how the depth of it we don't know, but something obviously has gone on.
And Vince McMahon, being all powerful and all great as he is, as he's proven that he's been able to leave his company and then magically reappear and take all control, and then tell us, I'm not going to work in the weeds anymore. I'm going to be right there, and then he goes right back in the weeds, as we've seen. Anyway, Vince McMahon is inevitably. It's inevitable at this point. It is going to meet an end here, and I don't know if. And I look at it this way: if this comes through and he gets charged with criminal charges, that's pretty adept. If he gets convicted, he's going to. I don't. Not necessarily in this day and age. You can't say he's necessarily. If he gets convicted, it doesn't necessarily mean he's going to go to prison. He could be put on a house arrest. He could be fined. He could be whatever. But I don't know if he gets convicted. I think that looks really bad. Even if he doesn't go to prison. If he goes to prison, that's a whole different story. If he doesn't go to prison, that's one story. If the charges don't stick and they get dropped, I still think it leaves a lot of bad taste in the fan's mouth. So I'm like, either Vince is going to go away on his own, Vince is going to step down on his own because it's too much, and I don't know where the spinal surgery plays into it. How is he going to recover? He's not a young person, okay? And surgery, as you get older, is not as easy to recover from and the lasting effects. So I don't know what he's going to be capable of. Now, yes, he still can talk and speak and pick up a phone and be like, hey, I want this or I want that. But again, we don't know. Don't know what's going on there. But my biggest thing is I look at this and I go, how much more can Endeavor take on before either the fans just start revolting and they've got to dismiss Vince McMahon, or how much is it in a business sense? This is the difference. Vince was in control of WWE, so he didn't really have to care what he looked like because, again, Vince has done one thing really great. Vince has made himself the supervillain on TV and in real life. So it's like, even all the crap he's pulling off in real life, we already expect this from Vince McMahon because the character he portrayed on TV is a giant a-hole. So, I mean, like, it's like, like, okay, yeah, Vince did this. Vince probably slept with a lot of females. Okay, cool. Like, we're like, we're not surprised. It's like there was no shock value in this news drop, really,
right,
for long-term fans. They're like, oh, that's not surprising. Yeah, okay. But, I mean, in the business sense, I think, the only thing that hurt Vince wasn't what Vince did behind the scenes or who he may, I mean, it's still bad who he took advantage of, no doubt about it. If he took advantage of these women and whatever little microscope, it's bad, granted, but he has painted himself where we were so like the shock value wasn't there, that it was just kind of like, it's not surprising.
Because his storylines were desensitized to it.
Exactly. But what Vince has done to himself, that in the fans' eyes, I think he's just booked bad wrestling. He's just killed the product. That's what we're mad about. We just want him to go away. We don't even. It's sad because we look at the other stuff and we're like, oh, this is bad, but it's Vince. But at this point, I feel like karma's really catching up to Vince, and I don't know if Vince steps down or if Endeavor. And I think at some point Endeavor's gonna have to step up and go, look, Vince, we got to stay away from everything. You could be person, name, and title and all, but you don't get to Because I think at some point the fans are going to revolt. There's going to be enough there that the fans are going to be like, we want Vince gone, and Endeavor is going to have to act. That or these charges against Vince are going to put a bad label on Endeavor, and Endeavor doesn't want no big corporation like that. No corporation all wants to really have somebody with that type of stuff tied to them if he's found guilty.
I agree with you as far as Endeavor is concerned. I don't know how much most of your fans pay attention. Like, those of us who talk about it in the IWC, sure, we understand a lot of this stuff because we're constantly talking about it. But those who just watch the show and that's it,
yeah,
I'm not sure how much that's getting out there to those fans.
But again, isn't Vince like 77 years old at this point? I mean, how much longer does this man really got to live, too? I mean, I'm just like, I don't know. I think karma's catching up to Vince, and I think I would think Vince would smarten up and come out with his last storyline and write himself off TV. Because I know Vince is, that's what, and it would probably be me if I were Vince McMahon. I would be like, okay, I've kind of shit the bed, but I want to go, I at least want to go. I at least want to go out on my terms, so I'm going to write a storyline where I'm going to put myself out. I mean, again, I don't know if he can kill himself because he tried that once and it went bad. But again, I just think it's time for Vince to write his final storyline where he writes himself out. I think it's just time for him to face that. And I think he's there. I think he's beginning to understand that it's time to let go. He did step down. He kind of watched Triple H do things. I think that other people got in his ears and he's like, oh, I can come back. And he kind of bullied himself in, but I don't think it's really turned the way he wanted it. And I think I just think he kind of knows. But I think he's as stubborn as an ox, and he's just, I know, pal, but I think spinal surgery is a really big deal. More charges on him, or supposed charges. There actually hasn't been charges. It's just been a search warrant and subpoena, so they're collecting stuff. I assume charges are coming. Probably what they'll do is they'll take this information from whatever subpoena, and they subpoena him or they subpoena something of his or something, because you can subpoena a person or you can subpoena a phone or a computer or documents or whatever, something that you want to
information
obtain.
Gathering.
And it was a subpoena search warrant. So they're looking for stuff. So there's something there, and they're going to take that, if they get enough of whatever they're looking for, they're going to take that back to another grand jury and try to get an indictment on him, which means then they can proceed to charge him criminally with whatever they feel that is. So he hasn't been criminally charged with anything as of yet, but I just feel like we're getting really close to something breaking. So I don't know. I think Vince needs to just kind of bow out, and I get it. I think Vince should, and Vince should write himself out. I mean, he's a character on TV, and I think I don't know if he's worried that he's not going to get his accolades. I think the fans will still appreciate him if he does it the right way.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So, anywho, we've talked a lot about the stuff, but let's talk about tonight. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest party of the summer happened tonight. It was SummerSlam, live from Detroit, Michigan. SummerSlam. Oh, what a show, what a show. Ladies and gentlemen, the card was pretty well packed. I know a lot of people complained that the show wasn't as good or the show was missing cards. Like, why didn't we get Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch on the show? Why didn't we get Rhea Ripley and Raquel Rodriguez on the show? We got eight matches tonight, 9 matches tonight, which I think is a good show. So, I mean, you got to look at it that way. If you had added 2 more matches, we would have been 11 matches, which means other matches on tonight's show would have probably been cut in time and length. And I think WWE's gotten better because a lot of our complaints were there was too many matches on the show. Then Triple H took over and we started cutting back on the matches on the show. So I'm like, you people want to be mad that these matches didn't get on the show. I think every match that got on the show tonight was worthy of being on the show.
I think also the fact that, with Triple H kind of, I don't want to say taking over, but you get my point.
Yeah.
He spread it out amongst the TV shows as well to give those matches and those shows more importance while still keeping a hyper focus on the premium live events.
So tonight we had SummerSlam, and you see there on the screen all the matches that we saw tonight. Some great, great matches, and we're going to come back to our faces, our beautiful faces. Me, my partner there, and so SummerSlam happened. We had Kid Rock open the show. Great vignette. I think it was really good. I liked some of the characters in the cars. It gave it really fit everything. It was a great opening. Anything to say about the opening of the show?
When I read that Kid Rock would be doing the opening, I was like, I mean, I understand the connection. That's where he's from, blah, blah, blah. He's one of the former WWE's favorite artists, blah, blah, blah.
Isn't he a Hall of Famer?
I don't recall.
I believe he's a Hall of Famer. But anyways, yeah, so Kid Rock did the cold open for the show. And then we went right into the match. Our opening match was Logan Paul versus Ricochet in a match that was good. I don't know if it lived up to the hype. I felt like they didn't give us a lot of what they'd given us before. It was a good back and forth match. The ending kind of, I guess, Logan Paul using brass knuckles to take out Ricochet, got the 1, 2, 3. And Logan Paul, your winner for the night. It was good. I don't know if it was, maybe I expect a little more because of who they are and a little bit of the build-up, but, I don't know. What do you think?
Like you were saying, it was good. It wasn't great per se because there was certain expectations, but by the same tokens, since Logan Paul's still essentially a part-timer, but used well in that time that he is there,
used as a spectacle. I mean, he's that.
Yes.
Some of these people, I'm like, Tony Khan, this is where you use people at the right moments. But yeah, he was used as a spectacle. Yes. But he's used as a spectacle.
Yes. And I think that's the proper way to use someone like Logan Paul, who has outside stuff outside of the company, who's not a full-timer, but can bring more eyeballs to the company when he is used.
Yeah. I still think they could have done more. Hopefully this feud does continue. We get payback. And maybe we get some more of that. This is where I was expecting a lot of what I call the flippity-floppity, flying through the air type of stuff. I just don't feel like we got a whole lot of that. I just felt like they would have both really brought it to that level. So maybe we'll get the payback. Maybe we'll get a stipulation match. Extreme Rules, no holds bar, no disqualification, some type of match in that aspect that'll, they can really bring it next time. That led into the rubber match, the end of a chapter. The story must continue, but we ended a chapter tonight in what was probably was it the match of the night? I don't know. It was a really, really, really good match. It was a top match. It did what it was supposed to. We had Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes in a match. These two men brought it. These two men told the story. Brock Lesnar beat the holy crap out of Cody Rhodes. I mean, Cody... And it was the story that needed to be told. Cody kept getting beat down, get back up. Brock Lesnar kept throwing him out of the ring, trying to get a count out. Cody kept getting back in the ring. Brock kept telling him, quit. You got to give this up. It's just going to get worse. It's just going to get worse. And Cody kept coming back, and Cody kept coming back, and Cody kept coming back. And that ending segment when it finally picked up the pace and Cody started hitting this. And then, not only that, Cody hitting a freaking Cody cutter from the top rope on Brock Lesnar was freaking incredible. That was just a highlight of the night right there for sure. I mean, that was impressive to come off that top rope and hit Brock Lesnar with a Cody cutter. And again, Brock Lesnar is that tall. Cody and Brock Lesnar, you see him face to face, standing height to height. They are about the same height. So, I mean, it's not like he's that much taller and coming off that top rope and catching that. Ooh, what a moment. That was a highlight of the night moment. But Cody, it told the story. Brock Lesnar beat down Cody, kept beating down Cody. Cody got beat. The only thing that was really weird is that Cody used the steel chairs in the beginning of this match. Like, hit Brock Lesnar in front of the referee with the steel chairs. And I'm kind of like, I don't recall this match being a no DQ at any time. Like, I don't recall a stipulation, but the ref didn't call the match when he slammed. Yes, they're outside the ring, so I don't know if they're saying, no, they're outside the ring or whatever. But it was really weird that they let Cody, because I'm kind of like, that should have been a disqualification? I don't know. But in the end, Cody hits the triple Cody cutter. 1, 2, 3 on Brock Lesnar to finalize
the Crossroads.
Or the Crossroads, yeah. Yes, he hits the triple Crossroads, pins Brock Lesnar 1, 2, 3, and the end of the chapter is there, and it is the end of the chapter because we had a moment that will go down in wrestling history that I couldn't even have predicted that to be the ending of this match. Brock Lesnar stood up. Him and Cody walked into one another. They went face to face. Lesnar gave a slight little head bunt.
Little psych out, yeah.
Yeah, and then put his hand out, shook Cody's hand, and then hugged Cody Rhodes, like full on hugged Cody Rhodes, and then took Cody's hand and raised Cody's hand to all four sides of the ring in this bizarro moment of going, what? With the storyline and everything, I mean, I didn't see this being an ending of Brock Lesnar giving the respect to Cody, passing some type of a torch to Cody. I mean, this was an unexpected. I mean, I'm glad they did it because it tells me that Lesnar's still kind of on the babyface side of things, and I like this. He's not necessarily horribly heel, but he's having fun doing what he's doing, and I kind of like the Brock Lesnar we got until he kind of got up to Cody, because I'm kind of like, oh, I don't really want to see. I don't need to see Brock Lesnar as a full-on heel anymore. This kind of tweener babyface, where he can just kind of fight anybody, I'm happy with, and so after the night, I'm really happy to see where Brock Lesnar is. He gave all the respect to Cody, and it was a beautiful moment. I mean, it was just like, oh crap, like this is happening. And again, it's also because WWE has protected Brock Lesnar, that we've never seen Brock Lesnar give that type of adoration or respect to another superstar ever. So I mean, I guess that's why I'm really like, wow, because Brock Lesnar doesn't do that.
The closest person he's ever done it with is Kurt Angle.
Yeah.
And you understood because they were more or less, similar, if not equal levels.
Of course, that was in his first run with WWE before he went to UFC.
True.
Now, the Brock Lesnar we've gotten after he's come back to UFC has been a whole different Brock Lesnar than that first Brock Lesnar. That Brock Lesnar that we first got was the Beast. And he, the next big thing more than the Beast. He was the next big thing. And he was impressive, but he was still a kid. And then he left. He went to try football. Didn't work out with the Vikings. Went to UFC. Became a badass. Came back to WWE. Became the Beast. Became the Beast incarnate. Became this monster far beyond anything he was in his first run. I mean, he's more...
In his first one, he was a pretty big monster.
Yeah, well...
That's the thing. Is he got bigger. He got better.
No, when he came back, they're so different. He was bad, and he was the next big thing, and he was impressive in his first run. But again, I think probably because of how he left, it kind of tarnished that beginning period. But when he came back, it was the Beast incarnate, and the way WWE protected him and used him. And then when we flipped him babyface, and we saw this other side of Brock Lesnar, and I'm like, yeah, he's given us a whole new dimension. And then the other aspect to this is we were never given a reason why Brock Lesnar really attacked Cody. But to see Brock Lesnar...
And we still haven't.
But to see Brock Lesnar give the respect to Cody, not only just totally blows it out of the water and brings Brock Lesnar back whole, but it pushes Cody to the moon. I mean, Cody is your next guy. If you didn't get it tonight that the story is Cody and that Cody's going to fight Roman at WrestleMania, I don't know what else to tell you. That's the story. They told you tonight. Brock Lesnar doing that is telling you he's the man. Brock Lesnar gave that rub to Cody that Cody didn't even need, but good God, that rub is huge for Cody. That rub made Cody in WWE right now. Not that he was... Go ahead.
I was watching, so while you were watching Collision after SummerSlam, I got to watch a part of the scrum, and even Cody Rhodes was like, the question was put out to me, like, what's next? And it's kind of like, what's next. He wouldn't name specifically, because obviously there's things in between.
Yes.
But he heavily insinuated, obviously, Roman Reigns is, the story, to continue and finish that story that we've been talking about, so he can get that WWE championship that his father never got.
No, and that's the story. And they told you tonight with Cody winning and with Brock Lesnar giving him that rub, whether you call it a rub or whatever you want to call it, that was a rub. That was Brock Lesnar. They don't do that with Brock Lesnar. They've never done that with Brock Lesnar. That was Brock Lesnar giving the rub to Cody to say he's next, he's the guy. And it skyrocketed Cody beyond what I didn't think Cody could go any higher than that moment. And to see that, and now it wasn't just like the general handshake between two wrestlers and showing respect. The fact that Brock Lesnar hugged him.
Yes.
And if you know anything personally about Brock's almost...
He's not a people person.
No. And he kind of gets close to... Howie Mandel, like he's almost a germaphobe in some senses. He's not a hardcore germaphobe, but if you go watch his interview with Pat McAfee, he doesn't like people. If he likes you, that's a big deal. So I mean, Brock Lesnar's not the type of person, like he wants to get in there and wrestle and do all that stuff, but he's not one to sit there and hug and high five and be all buddy. But he's the one that wants to come in, get paid, and go back to his ranch. That's his thing.
Yep.
So tonight to see him. The handshake would be one thing, but when he actually hugged Cody, pulled in Cody, he initiated the hug. It wasn't Cody pulling Brock to him. Brock pulled Cody to him. And the fact that either Cody didn't really know or Cody's really, really fucking good. His facial expressions when this was all going down, especially when Brock hugged him, I don't know how much of that was planned out. I don't know how much Cody knew, but his facial expressions were like, what? I mean, you could see the general shock in Cody Rhodes. And then when Brock was throwing up his arm, of course, it looked like Cody was a little sore because Brock threw up his arm. He was like, oh, it was kind of funny. But the look on Cody's face when Brock did this was just amazing because I'm like, I don't know if you can act that good. I mean, if you can, congratulations, because you looked like you didn't know it was going to go down there. And the other fact, if you don't know Cody's story, not only after the Brock Lesnar hug, handshake, raising his hands, doing the four sides of the ring, and Brock Lesnar leaving, they still let Cody celebrate for quite a bit after that. Because I was like going, okay, are we going to get some type of swerve surprise now? Because Brock Lesnar's kind of out of the ring, and Cody's still going there. And they were dragging it. And I mean, Cody got almost all the way up the aisle, and they were still showing this momentous celebration. Nothing came out of it, but that tells me that, they're telling you right now, Cody's our guy. Cody is next. Cody will be... it will be crowned, and we know that's going to be WrestleMania. How he gets there exactly, I assume he's going to win the Royal Rumble. I assume it's got to be from a number 1, number 2 position. I think you got to go back to last year's WrestleMania. I think number 1 Cody, number 2 Gunther, and I think they need to go all the way through the Rumble and be the last 2 again. Gunther's done amazing things. He deserves it. Whether he's the Intercontinental Champion or not at that time, I don't know. I don't think he needs to be the Intercontinental Champion because it would be the right time to look at him and going, because I think if you make Gunther look like the guy he is against Cody, a lot of people are going to be, well, was Cody going to win 2 years in a row? Are they really going to let Cody win 2 years in a row? But hey, Gunther might win. I think if WWE keeps doing what they're doing with Gunther could be a guy that they could actually let win the Rumble. But I think if you do Cody and Gunther as 1 and 2 going into the Rumble and let them battle all the way to the end, I think you could have a really hot Rumble. I think those are your guys. Those are your guys going forward. And maybe Gunther gets over the Raw to face Seth Rollins for the WWE Championship. If he's still WWE Champion. Or World Champion, excuse me.
Yeah, World Heavyweight Champion.
World Heavyweight Champion. I forget they changed the name of the belts. So Cody Lesnar was an awesome match. I think it blew it out of the water for a third match. A great story. Oh, and Cody put the Kimura lock on Brock Lesnar. That was impressive. I mean, they did great. This back and forth. Brock Lesnar just beating the snot out of Cody, and then Cody coming back, and then just pulling out these moments, and then hitting the Kimura lock on Lesnar. Oh, it was impressive. And then when he finally ended it, and of course the funny part was, I don't know if you noticed this, but Brock Lesnar's trunks sheared all up. His trunks ripped up and in the front. I don't know if you saw that. I was like, oh, his trunks are all torn up.
Yeah, I actually didn't notice that.
Yeah, his trunks ripped open. You can see right through his underwear. Like he ripped the whole front end of his trunks open. So yeah, go back and watch that.
Something I wanted to mention real quick though is when Cody put the Kimura lock on Lesnar, I was like, he was really talking about how he wanted to embarrass Lesnar, and how else would you do that than with one of his very own moves?
And he came.
So they sold me a ticket on that one.
And he came damn near close to making Brock Lesnar tap out. I mean, I was sitting there and go, oh shit, is this how they're going to do it? They they did it. It was awesome. It was amazing. Probably the best match on the card tonight. I don't know. There was a couple other good things on there, but it was a damn good match.
Well, considering it was said that there are 4 main events, not 1, not 2, not 3, 4.
Yeah.
That's how they tried to sell it.
Yeah, and this was a hard one to follow. Anyway, so we got to the Battle Royal with a lot of names. AJ Styles, Austin Theory.
Are you really going to try to name all of them?
Austin Theory, now if you want me to go there. Tommaso Ciampa, Bronson Reed, Sheamus, Butch, Rich Holland, Chad Gable, Otis, the Viking Raiders, Eric and Ivar, Shinsuke Nakamura, The Miz, or like in the commercial, I'm the only Mike around here. I am Mike the Miz Mizarian, whatever.
Mizarian.
I think that covers almost every. Oh, AJ Styles. No, I said AJ. Anyways, there was a big group, a lot of names. Oh, and LA Knight, of course, he was in there. So all the men got in the ring. LA Knight.
Oh, you mean you're not going to talk about the 25th person?
Well, I'm getting there. Named? I'm getting there. I'm trying to build there. AJ Styles, we got LA Knight's entrance after the Miz. It was LA Knight, and then AJ Styles was the last supposed man to come down to the ring. All the men were in the middle of the ring when suddenly we get, hold on. Well, you can't start this battle royal without the 25th man, and we get cut up to the rampway to see MVP. And MVP was there to introduce us to Omos, the 25th man, to enter the ring. And so Omos got in there, and they kind of helped look Omos impressive. Butch, I love Butch. Anyways, Omos threw out a couple of guys, and finally the few handful of guys finally got to the point and eliminated Omos. We got a great back and forth. In the end, it came down to Sheamus and LA Knight, and they went back and forth for quite a bit there. They were really keeping you on the edge of the seat. I don't know if they were going to betray us and let Sheamus win it, but no, in the end, they let LA Knight have this moment. I think they definitely stamped LA Knight as being another one of the big contenders. I think that's what WWE is doing so right that I wish Tony Khan would look at. They're building more than one man for title contention. They're building more. I mean, you got Gunther, you got LA Knight, we got Cody Rhodes. So, I mean, AEW, who did they have after Adam Cole and MJF? That's, it's like, okay, at least with WWE, we're seeing them start to build people again. So LA Knight wins the Battle Royal. It was a really good Battle Royal. I haven't seen a really good Battle Royal in a long time. It made sense. The story was there. They made a lot of the guys look good. Chad Gable was looking amazing. Chad Gable, German suplex, Bronson Reed, that was impressive. Who else was in there? Austin Theory did his thing as normal. Omos looked impressive, throwing people over, dumping both, I think, Rich Holland and Butch at the same time as they were trying to double team him. Otis got a little bit over there.
Riddle and...
no, it was Riddle and Butch. Riddle and Butch. Wasn't it? Yeah. Riddle did Riddle things. Anywho, so it was good. It was really good Battle Royal. Really good, because Battle Royals are not always that great when they're Battle Royals. You're just kind of, But this was a really good Battle Royal. Then we got into another really good match tonight. Really could get up there in contention, which I was shocked by. We had Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey in the MMA match, and they brought it. They brought the story. They did everything right. In the end, Shayna Baszler made Ronda Rousey pass out, and this should be our goodbye to Ronda Rousey. Shayna Baszler has kind of christened herself, so hopefully they continue this badass that she's taking this place over Ronda Rousey. So hopefully they continue this storyline. Really good for what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Although is Shayna Baszler now the baddest boots on the planet?
Now, let's wait to see. I mean, that's what they got to carry on. I hope they do, because it means a lot there. Alrighty. Then we got into the Intercontinental title match. The Intercontinental Champion, the Ring General Gunther, versus Drew McIntyre in another great classic match. These were two behemoths that fought it out. The chop battles were just insane. Move after move, just impressive. And then the closing sequence with Gunther hitting a splash, a clothesline, Powerbomb 1, 2, 3. Gunther retains the Intercontinental Championship. They continue to build Gunther really great. I do think it's time for Gunther to lose the Intercontinental title. I don't know if he really needs to pass Honky Tonk Man, but I know he's really close to doing that. So we'll see. But I think it's time for Gunther.
I'm just praying for it. Please pass Honky Tonk Man. Anyone else I'm not worried about. Pass Honky Tonk.
I do think we're getting to the point where Gunther losing the title is getting to that point where it's time for him to go ahead and drop that title. So he can be looked at as, not because it's going to do him any bad. I think it's just he needs to start being looked at as that main event guy. He needs to start getting into that next picture. It's like, yeah, let's move up. So, impressive match. Very happy. I mean, SummerSlam, it was a good show. It felt like a really good Triple H show. I don't feel Vince had much of his hands in that. I don't even think Vince was really the part of why Omos was on the card. I think Omos would have been still a Triple H thing, just to throw in the Battle Royal to throw people off. Because LA Knight being so over, and the fact that everybody assumed that LA Knight was going to win it. You throw in Omos, it kind of makes you go, oh crap, are they going to put Omos over? So I don't think that was a Vince call. I really don't feel like there's anything in this night. I don't feel like there was any changes. I don't feel like there was anything that was messed up that took away from what this show was. I felt like this was a Triple H controlled card. I don't think Vince had anything to do with this.
We'll never know, but I tend to agree with you, just based on results of modern times compared to when Vince had full control.
Well, if Vince would have had full control, I think things would have been way
different. Very different card, let alone results.
Yeah, we probably would have had some changes. We'd have had a thrown in there, Matt. It would have been just a clusterfuck of clusterfucks. Anyways, then we got into the WWE World Title match. The WWE World Champion Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor. And this match went great. It went back and forth. They left you on the edge of the seat. Balor pulling off moves, Rollins pulling off moves. They built around that 7-year storyline, the revenge of Balor. Balor's here to get his redemption, to earn it, to reclaim his glory, to get his title back that Seth Rollins cost him. The best storytelling in the match. Great match. In the end, Judgment Day came down. First it was the Mr. Money in the Bank Priest. He came down. I think that's when he tried to offer Balor to use the case, and Balor refused it. And then we saw Mommy and Dirty Dom join into the fray, and they tried to block off stuff. And then the Priest tried to offer Balor the case, but Balor wouldn't take the case. I don't know if he thought Damien was cashing in. I know they were trying to sell that, but
yeah, that just irritated me so much from Michael Cole. He was so hard trying to sell that. Like, if you look at the performance, though, he was trying to offer the case to Balor, not cash in.
Well, and I don't know what Balor was really doing. If he was saying no, I felt like he said no, it'd be rotten or something. It was just weird that
because he had said something. He said no, something about he's sticking to Plan A.
Yeah, so I don't know. So I went back and forth for a while, and then Balor finally asked Priest for the case. So Priest looked at him kind of like, okay. Priest slid the case into the ring, walked around to the other side of the ring to distract the referee. Balor crawled over, as an idiot would, to the briefcase. So he's on all fours trying to grab the briefcase instead of standing up. And Rollins comes charging out of the corner, stumps him, head through the briefcase. 1, 2, 3. And then we see the greatest deadpan stare of Damian Priest, just kind of like, really? Like, really? Like, it was a great look for Damian Priest. Just kind of like,
absolutely
great. Like, he just knows, like, fuck, this is shit. So that made an interesting segment. What is going to happen now? I don't know. Balor didn't win. Balor definitely, when he came to, he kind of looked at Priest in disgust. I don't know how this is going to play out. I really want it to go. I want to see Balor stay with Judgment Day, and then Priest go out. Oh, J.D. Donahue, he was in the, or J.D. Who, because he got thrown out pretty quickly, was in the Battle Royal. I think it was Miz and then him by Omos. But anywho.
What did you think about calling him Donahue?
What is it?
McDonough.
McDonough. There you go. I don't know him well enough. I don't know why I'm calling him Donahue. McDonough.
Because in NXT UK, he was known as Jordan Devlin. That's where the JD comes from.
Yeah.
And then for some reason, when they brought him over to NXT, main NXT, they started calling him JD McDonough.
McDonough.
Why the name change, I have no clue, but...
Because Jordan Devlin's had his real name?
I don't know. I just know that was the name that he was using.
But it's WWE. They never like to use other names. Anywho. So Balor, I hope he stays ahead of Judgment Day. Maybe they can get Baron Corbin built up to being a part where he could take the Priest place in Judgment Day, a refresh Balor back on the main roster, or Corbin. Bring Baron Corbin back up to take the place of. I want Priest to go babyface. If Priest is going to cash in, I want to feel like he's going to come off babyface. It's going to be a betrayal on Balor. I don't really want a babyface Balor. I feel Balor right now with his heel ash, kind of the head of Judgment Day. That or Balor goes by himself heel, Dirty Dom and his mama go off on their own because they're fine by themselves. Like they can carry on their storyline without the rest of Judgment Day and do whatever they want. Hell, you could take them away and let them come out to Latino Heat. Come back out to Eddie Guerrero's music. Get rid of their Judgment Day music and bring back Eddie Guerrero's music for Dom to come out to, since he's now the son of Eddie Guerrero, as he proclaims. So why not break up Judgment Day and let him come out to Eddie Guerrero's old music, or maybe he takes over the LWO. I don't know. Maybe the LWO is going to team up with Dominic and Mommy, because I don't know with what's his name.
Santos Escobar.
Yes, Escobar. The storyline they're selling is that Ray got hurt in that match and Escobar still took the match, and I don't know. There's a lining of underlying where they could kind of make Escobar go back to being heel, betray Rey Mysterio here in a moment. Maybe he still takes the LWO name. Of course, tonight when he was wearing a T-shirt in the Battle Royal, I think it said DWO instead of LWO.
Yes, I thought that was kind of weird.
So I don't know what that was about. I don't even know what DWO was. I couldn't read his shirt.
Yeah, I couldn't read it that well either.
I don't know what that entails for him in that matter. So they could have Dom go over there and be part of the LWO with Mommy, and they could all come out to Eddie Guerrero music. Selena Vega could leave LWO because she doesn't want to be part of something that's going to betray on Ray. Who knows? But I mean, Dom could go on his own with Rhea. He could bring back Rhea's brutality music for her, but Dom could definitely come out to Eddie Guerrero's music, and it would make sense at this point, or even a ring back.
I see.
Why not? Why not let him start doing that shit too? Dirty Dom. Everything about his character, he could still lie, cheat, and steal, and fit his character. It's not stretching it. So I want to see Priest go babyface, especially after his match with Bad Bunny in Puerto Rico. He's Mr. Money in the Bank. I think he's definitely earned it. I definitely think him screwing over Balor, but going face in the end. And Balor staying heel. I like Balor better as a heel right now. I'm not ready for Balor as a babyface yet. So it makes more sense. So we're going to wait and see. I guess Payback, we're going to have a run back. Or Priest is going to cash in here. Or I don't know. Something's going to happen. I guess we'll tune in tomorrow night and find out how that goes. Anyways, then into the WWE Women's Championship. Asuka, champion, versus Charlotte Flair versus Bianca Belair. Now, wrong with Balor, but every match was good. This is a decent match. I wouldn't say it was one of the better matches. Probably not the best match of the whole card. Still not knocking it, because, they really did good to try and bring everything they could with the three of them and trying to do all these double moves and triple moves and the double, whatever Charlotte does where she flips over them and cracks their heads. I forget what they call that move.
Natural selection.
Do what?
Natural selection.
Yes, a double natural selection. Asuka, the kicks, they did all this stuff. And of course then Charlotte at one point dumps Bianca. Bianca Belair at some point hurt her knee in the match, it looked like. Then Charlotte Flair dumped her over the top rope near the corner where she fell with her knee onto the metal stairs, which the referee stood out, and then they called down the medical team, and they all came out, and it looked like Bianca Belair was out of the match. It looked like she had a real injury and she was going to go. Asuka and Charlotte battled back and forth. Charlotte finally puts a figure 8 on Asuka. Bianca Belair is still walking up the ramp, decides, no, I'm going to go back in. She goes back in the ring, climbs up with a bad knee, climbs up the rope, and propels herself with a 450 splash, which goes, okay. And I kind of lost fast. I'm like, well, that was stupid. Like, she's a baby face, but now she's feigning this injury. But she just got up on the top rope, pushed herself off with enough energy that it didn't, quote-unquote, hurt to do a 450 splash. Crashes on a Charlotte Flair, who's in the figure 8 position, but doesn't get the 1, 2, 3. The match went back and forth. Charlotte then had Bianca Belair in the figure 8. When Asuka slid in, blew the mist into Charlotte's face, And then in the melee, Bianca Belair was able to grab Asuka and roll her up into a pin for a 1-2-3. Bianca Belair becomes the new WWE Women's Champion. And at that moment in time, I was not a happy camper. I didn't feel like the story they were telling there, that she was out. And the fact of the matter that we just seen Bianca Belair become the longest women's champion in the modern era.
Modern history, yeah.
And so I was like, I don't really want to see Bianca Belair with the title again. I didn't really want to see Charlotte Flair with the title. I thought it would have been great on Asuka because I thought Asuka Io Sky fight would be better. But no, Bianca Belair wins the match. She's sitting there with her bum knee, and I'm not happy. So what did you think up to that point?
See, at that time, let's do a little backtrack for a second. Anyone who knows me knows I have not been a Bianca Belair supporter because her character and her mannerisms do not fit. It's like what she's saying and what she's doing, don't make sense to me. As a heel, a lot of her promos would have made more sense. But as a face, it's like it just doesn't add up. I happen to enjoy this match. I happen to thought that Bianca was telling a really good story, so she was winning me over with the in-ring storytelling tonight. And so I was actually fine with Bianca winning.
So,
because you keep saying that, and you said this off air as well as just a moment ago, that she was faking this injury. And it's like, I don't think she was faking it the way.
She may have been slightly hurting in her knee, but she wasn't hurting that bad if she could fly off the top rope and do a 450. That takes a lot of push off on your knees. So, I mean, it couldn't have been that bad. But, and I just...
Plot point, or plot hole, granted, but not... Like I said, it's like she wasn't doing it like the way a heel would.
No, but I mean, to me, it was like, why would you do that with Bianca? It just kind of made her look weak. Why?
It was, to me, I look at it as a story point.
I mean,
she was fighting through the pain. Well, she obviously would have had to have adrenaline running through her body, whatever, to block the pain out enough to do that move. Whether it's believable to you or not, that's an individual thing.
Well, to me, I didn't want to see Bianca win. It was just like, I don't need to see Bianca with the title. I didn't want to see her win that way. I was like, she should have won. She should have looked strong in the match overall. But again, to the bigger picture that I didn't see coming until after the fact. So Bianca Belair wins. She's holding the title. She's clutching her knees. She's half in tears. She's half happy. She's celebrating. And the best music of the night hit. Io Sky's music hits. Bayley comes running down with Io Sky. Bayley takes the briefcase from Io Sky, beats the snot out of Charlotte, knocks the crap out of Asuka, and then Io Sky gives the money in the bank to the referee, says, I'm going to cash it. And then in the longest forever, we got to... And she's like, come on. She's up on the ropes getting ready to do her moonsault. And she's like, come on. And they're sitting there, and all of a sudden... Io Sky is cashing in her money, and it was just like the longest. Can we get to the point? They announced it, then the bell rang. She flew off with her beautiful moonsault like nobody else can do, and she got the 1-2-3, and then we got a new WWE Women's Champion in Io Sky, where the belt should be, and I'm happy, and that's how it should be. And then we got Dakota Kai, who's been out of injury. She got in the ring. And there's a great celebration moment. And I'm kind of confused because I thought Damage Control was heel. But after the night...
They are, but remember, they're practically a sisterhood, so they're going to be happy around each other.
Yeah, well, but after the night, I mean, at least two of them to me could be very easily babyface. We're still waiting because we still believe Bayley's going to screw over Io Sky at some point. But, I mean, tonight they came off as strong-ass babyfaces. I get the celebration, but I was just like... Of course, Io Sky's been slightly... being built babyface as she's going to separate from Damage Control. Where Dakota Kai falls on all that, I don't know.
So, according to the scrum, Dakota Kai actually did answer this question about, what's next for her. She's not quite ready to come back, in ring, full time yet. She's on her way to healing. Whether we see her on TV or not, we don't know.
Yeah.
But she won't be wrestling anytime soon yet.
Now,
not there yet.
Another rumor I read that just recently popped up. Kairi Sane, Sky Pirate. Am I saying her name right?
Yeah.
Okay. She may be coming back to WWE. There's talks that she may be signing a contract to come back to WWE. So we could have an interesting time there. I'm happy Io Sky is now the women's champion. Somebody different. Hopefully her.
That's I think the most important thing right there. Different and good.
I hope her and Asuka are in the next match. I hope something with Belair. Whether they continue the injury or something, I think Belair needs to go away for a little bit. My other thing is as much as I've been saying the Street Profits, which we got on SmackDown, looking like they're possibly going heel, not definitive, but the way they're projecting them right now, yeah, I would say they're switching heel. It definitely feels that way, but nothing definitive yet.
See, the attack they did on SmackDown, to me, they look like they're heels. They just happen to be popular as well. So it's kind of like...
Well, but the fact that everybody's cheering Bobby, I don't know what WWE's going to do. They're coming off as heels.
That's fair.
But I don't know where WWE's going to take them because everybody started cheering Lashley. Of course, everybody might be the same feeling. It's like, finally, we're getting the Street Profits heel like we want. Kind of like when Roman got it, we're like, finally, you're giving Roman as a heel. This is what we want. This is where we believe he should be. So we shall see. I feel they're heels, but I'm holding back from saying they're heels because we really haven't gotten the bullet to the... we haven't gotten the nail in the coffin that says, okay, they're definitely a heel faction. They're showing a lot of these things, but it hasn't really been, there's a lot of teasing going on there. But I think Bianca Belair could go away right now. I think it's great. She's injured, supposedly, right? You could sell that story. She could come out in Raw, get re-injured, take her off TV. Bianca Belair needs to go away for a little while. She's been, she was women's champion for a long time. A Raw champion, it was SmackDown, whatever it was, Raw. And then she was women's champion. I don't even know, was she women's champion or was that when Asuka got it? I don't know. Not the point, honestly, not a point at all. But anywho, I think Bianca Belair just needs to go away. She needs a break. We need to kind of forget about her for a little bit to kind of, do anything. I think she should go heel. The only thing I know is they did a Slim Jim commercial with her and LA Knight. And I'm like, well, if they've got her in Slim Jim commercials, I don't know if they're going to pull the trigger on making her heel yet.
It also depends on how long that Slim Jim commercial airs.
No, I know that.
Was it, is it just for tonight? Are they going to air it a few more times in the next couple of weeks? Who knows?
But, I mean, Bianca Belair could really go away for the rest of the year and be okay. It's not going to hurt her, especially if she comes back heel. I think she needs to go away to come back heel. I don't think her staying around and playing this babyface character anymore really does her any good. There's nothing else for her to do. She already won the women's champion. Now she's got to do something different. And I think if she went away and came back heel, it would give a different dimension to her character. And hell, she could join her boyfriend over there in whatever faction they're creating. Or husband.
Yeah, I would say her husband, like her boyfriend.
Yeah. So anyways, Io Sky is your new women's champion. And that brings us to the final conclusion, the chapter of the night, the match of the night, the main event. WWE champion Roman Reigns, who only came out with one belt. There's no 3 belts tonight. Versus main event Jey Uso, not only for the WWE championship, but for the right to be called the tribal chief for the whatever they call the
delay thing.
Delay. Anyways, they gave us a lot of story behind it, and they gave us a lot of background on it. It makes a lot of sense. They did a lot to sell the storyline. So, this match, it's okay.
It was okay?
I don't think it lived up to what they were selling. They were talking tribal warfare. I don't feel like, I'm like, tribal warfare should have been all-out war. I don't feel like, for the very beginning part of it, I mean, in the end it picked up, but in the beginning it was just a real slow, methodical match. It was good in the sense, but I was just like, okay, where's this tribal warfare? And the first time, like, Jay got a weapon, like, he kind of hit Roman, but he didn't really blast off on Roman. It wasn't until later that he started blasting off on Roman. I'm like, okay, this is what I expected to see. This tribal warfare, I just felt the way you were selling it to me as a tribal warfare, this should have been a dogfight, should have been an all-out fight. The match itself, I'm talking about. Now, in the end, when we got out of the screen, we started getting into where they were going to fight all over the place. I'm like, okay, this is what I've been waiting for. Solo Sikoa comes out of nowhere, takes out Jay, puts Jay through a table, and we go back and forth, and they get him back in the ring, and then Jay takes down Solo Sikoa, then he takes down Roman. It's back and forth, and it really picked up. And then I believe Jay hit a spear on Roman and went to cover him for a 1, 2, and a man dressed all in black pulls Jay Uso off of Roman Reigns. So before we go to that, what did you think of the match up to that point?
I looked at the early part of the match more like an 80s style heavyweight bout. Mm-hmm. Like it was more about the anticipation of when they finally get to that point of hitting each other.
Yeah.
As opposed to just starting off wild. You knew they were going to go for a while, so it's like they had to pace themselves anyways.
No, it was a long match. I give that. They did not burn it out, but I was kind of like I expected a little more out of it since it was tribal warfare.
Well, see, I think when you look at the match overall, I think you got your tribal warfare. But again, the starting of the match was more to get that anticipation going.
Yeah.
Like I said, the way they did in the 80s in the heavyweight bout.
So we got the man in black pulling Jay out of the ring, off of Roman. Didn't get the 1, 2, 3. And everybody's like, who is this? And ladies,
As if we didn't know.
Well, I don't know how many people do. I mean, I assumed. I wasn't 100% sure. I just knew.
Well, yes. No one can be 100% sure, but
I
the
just
odds
knew
are
somebody had to do something. And my biggest thing was the storyline they were selling for week after week after week. After Jimmy was taken out, was like, Jay's, it's all Jay's fault. This was the constant story. It was all Jay's fault. And that's what really led me to say, I think Jimmy's going to come back and betray Jay. And that's absolutely what we got tonight. The man dressed in black pulled down his hoodie. It was Jimmy Uso. And the fans let Jimmy have it. Fuck you, Jimmy. Was all over the place. I mean, the crowd let him have it. They unloaded him. They rained him in boos. The world was, I mean, it was a shock good enough to make you go, oh. I mean, even though I said that I think it'll be Jimmy or somebody, you know, Jimmy made the most sense to me, unless WWE had somebody else. But the one thing they did during that match is they kept building it up to a point like you kept expecting somebody to come down the ring. And then when Solo came out, you're like, okay, Jimmy's going to show up anytime now. Jimmy's going to show up and help Jay. But when it was Jimmy that betrayed Jay, he took out Jay, handed him the Roman. Roman speared Jay through the table. 1, 2, 3. Roman Reigns is still your WWE champion. And Jimmy starts walking out of the ring, and Roman's just sitting there staring at him like, what? So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I'm very interested moving forward to see how they explain that one. The reasons why.
Well, I don't think
Because if Jimmy's not rejoining the bloodline, then why would he betray his brother?
Well, I don't
and
know.
Why, having his ass whooped by the bloodline, would he rejoin to begin with?
Well, I look at it this way. I think he shocked Roman. I don't think the storyline's going to be Roman didn't know he was coming out to interfere. I just think Jimmy sat at home, hurt, injured, on the shelf. And remember last time what happened when Jimmy was hurt and sat on the shelf? What happened to Jay? Jay became main event Jay, right? It all became about Jay. And Jimmy's lived in Jay's kind of shadows since then.
Ever since, yes.
So Jimmy gets hurt again. He gets taken out. Jay's in the main event picture again. You know, every week he's hearing Roman say these stories. Well, it's Jay's fault that you're at home, Jimmy. It's Jay's fault. Because in a way, the story is Jimmy stood up for his brother and betrayed Roman and brought his brother on. In a way, you look at it and go, yeah, I can make the connection to why it's Jay's fault. And you have Jimmy just basically be like, you know what? You were right. It's been Jay's fault. Jay's the one who's held me back. Jay was main event Jay. When I was injured, what was he doing? He was main eventing, and here he is again. I get injured, and he takes the main event spot and just leaves me behind. So, I mean, it's real easy for me to look at Jimmy going back to Roman and following in line. And the fact of the matter that Jimmy helped Roman puts Jimmy in a different spotlight or a different way of, like, Roman looking at him like, he could be the next right-hand man, the next tribal chief, the next, Roman's going to take him back in the fold because that's just Roman's story. Roman's going to be like, oh, yes, come back to me, my child. Because we have Roman the god, quote-unquote, right. Roman the tribal chief, whatever you want to look at him, but, I mean, it's just the same thing. Oh, come back to me, my lost lamb. My child, you were lost, but now you understand, you've seen the light. So I don't think it's really that difficult to explain Jimmy coming back into the fold of the bloodline. And again, he may not even join the bloodline. But again, I think he will. But I think his whole story is, yeah, you were right. Jimmy betrayed me. Because, I mean, the storyline's there. What happened last time? Jimmy got hurt. Jay became the main star.
Yeah.
Jimmy got hurt. Jay's fighting in the main event. I can see, I mean, it made sense to me then. I mean, I felt like this was going to be Jimmy turning on Jay. He can realign with Roman and be in the bloodline. And Jay can be on the outside. And now we're going to have Jimmy and Jay matches.
From a utility perspective, you can put Jimmy and Solo as a tag team, leaving Jay to be a solo act for a while, and really see if they can build that, really continue to build that main event Jay Uso feel.
Yeah, no, and they can do that, and then the collapse will happen. Of course, the collapse is going to build. Now, Here's the other thing. You could have the biggest plot twist in the world. You wanna have a double plot twist here. What if Jimmy did it to Jay, but Jay knew Jimmy was going to do it to him because Jimmy's going to get back with the bloodline just to betray the bloodline from the inside to save their brother Solo? Because
it's a possibility.
You take out the rest of the targets to get Roman to fall. If Roman, because I believe at going into WrestleMania, the only way I see this story working anymore is that Roman is alone. So whether Cody takes out everybody, whether Cody has help to take out somebody, or however it comes out, or whether Jay is in Cody's corner at WrestleMania, or however this begins, I think Roman, when it gets to WrestleMania, where we have him and Cody, this time it's going to be where we all know he doesn't have Solo, he doesn't have Jimmy, he doesn't have Jay, he doesn't have any of this family member. He's a tribal chief without a tribe. He's standing alone on his grave. You know, this is going to be his hill to die on. That he's going into this match, and we all know this is his final battle. This is where the big boss is going to go. And he knows that he's standing there, that he has to, this is going to be the fight of his life. Because this match now, at WrestleMania, between Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns for the undisputed WWE Championship, will have to be, I mean, the way Cody got the rub from Braun, the way Roman won tonight, we're going to get this ultimate, like, final boss battle. This is going to be an amazing match because it's going to be Cody's final story. It's going to be Cody Rhodes finishing his story, but it's also going to be Roman's reign, last stand. It's going to be Roman Reigns. He's lost everything. He's a fallen tribal chief. Can he survive? He's survived everything else. Can he stand up top? The only other thing they could do in that is, even if he loses to Cody, is have The Rock appear to challenge him somehow. But I don't even think that's going to happen at this point. If you're going to get Rock and Roman, it's going to have to be a different story, because if they were going to do that, they would have needed to do that. But anyways, WrestleMania 40 is going to be Cody versus Roman. It's going to be Cody to finish the story, and it's going to be Roman, the tribal chief with no tribe, standing alone for the first time ever. You know, his kingdom has collapsed, but here he is to fight. That he's not going to go quietly in the night. You know, you're going to have to kill the king, kill the chief, or whatever to be. And then that's the story.
You have to kill me to take this title.
But that's true. That's really where they're going to put Roman. And Roman's going to be, you know, the great tribal chief, the great, I mean, he's been written like any great ruler of the world that's, you know, gotten bigger than they should have. And as they, you know, got to the top and then watched their empire or dynasty collapse beneath them, you know, they're still standing up there, kind of like the captain on the ship. He's going to go down with the ship. That's where I see Roman at WrestleMania. I think everybody's going to be, there's not going to be a Solo, there's not going to be a Jimmy, there's not going to be anybody to save Roman at WrestleMania. It's going to be Roman versus Cody. We're going to know it's pretty much a one-on-one match, and we're going to know it's Cody's telling us, finishing the story, and Roman's, the fall of the Roman Empire.
Mm-hmm.
So, anywho, we tried to make this a shorter night, but again, we've got over 2 hours, so I don't know. We'll see how editing goes. Anyways, that was SummerSlam. Overall, SummerSlam was amazing. I think it was a good card. It kept going. I don't think there was any major low points in the night. Yes, there was a few things for me that I didn't really like. I didn't like Balor winning the title on that short spear, but it did make sense once they had Io Sky come out. I was a little bit happier, and then I could buy the storyline. I just didn't know the bigger picture was there until it happened. So they got me. I have to give WWE this. Whether it was Triple H,
they sold you a ticket, huh?
They got me. Well, they did, because I was pissed off that Bianca Belair won on the same injury, and I didn't realize, oh wait, Io Sky could cash in, and that was her way of cashing in. So that was impressive. I was not a big fan of the beginning of the tribal warfare, but in the end, I was happy, and I'm not shocked by the Jimmy betrayal of Jay. Where it goes from here, I don't know. I would assume Jimmy's going to go back into the fold of the bloodline. Because, I mean, it's like a lost puppy. You're alone. We're here to protect you. So, and it can play one of two ways. Either Jimmy's really serious about betraying Jay, or this is the ultimate, like, Jimmy's going to get back on the good side to save Solo. It's the long mission. Of course, we did see a little bit of friction between Solo and Roman because Roman speared Solo. So, there's a lot there. And we have a few more months to tell. Now, where Roman goes from here, I don't know. Where Cody goes from here, I don't know. We're not going to see these guys come in contact with one another until after the Royal Rumble. That's just a fact. And there's no reason, unless, and the only reason that these two guys should touch is if you go to Survivor Series and you have a War Games match. And you have Roman and Solo and Jimmy and somebody else. I don't know who you would throw in there. Versus a Cody, a Jimmy, or Cody, a Jay, and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, or some combination of the mixed match.
Something along those lines.
That's the only time I could accept them touching. Otherwise, Cody and Roman do not need to touch each other until after the Rumble. Period. There's no reason they should be interfacing now. I mean, I guess they could initiate an interface to get Cody going. Hey, I want the title match. Of course, he's on Raw and Roman's on SmackDown, so it's going to be kind of hard unless there's something coming up.
The seeds will be there.
Yeah. So I mean, I assume Cody's going to come out tomorrow and say, hey, you know what I want? I want a title match. We know it's not that he doesn't want Seth. I mean, we don't need to see him and Seth go at it. Cody doesn't need to lose to Seth right now. Cody doesn't need to lose to anybody right now. Unless it's a really good dirty pin or something to, really that's really going to advance the storyline purpose. But I really don't think Cody needs to lose right now. After his rub with Brock, you got to be real careful what you do with Cody from here.
Agreed.
You can't take that off of Cody because he's where he needs to be, that he's viable again. The only thing he has to do is either get through the Royal Rumble or win Elimination Chamber. I figure it's going to be he's going to win back-to-back Royal Rumbles. I just feel that's where the story's going. I mean, yes, you could say he loses. I mean, he could be in the Rumble. He could be one of the last guys and get thrown out. Like I said, if it's him and Gunther, you could have Cody throw out Gunther and win 2 years in a row, which is fine, and then he can challenge for Roman. Or you could have Gunther throw him out. But again, I guess it would be hard to say. Why wouldn't Gunther want to go against Roman? So whoever wins the Royal Rumble gets to pick what title they go after, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would think Gunther would want to go after Roman. That's just the bigger prize than maybe a Seth Rollins, unless they build somebody else up in that moment. So it's really hard for me to buy that Cody loses and in his last... I mean, I get the story where they're saying, he didn't win the Rumble. This is Cody's last chance to go to Elimination Chamber and win a title match by winning the Elimination Chamber. And he's got to go through 6 or 7 or 8 other guys. How many other guys they want to put in Elimination Chamber? It's normally 6, but we've seen it with 7. I get where they could tell that story to add to it, but I don't think they need to. I think it's just Cody needs to go to the Rumble. Cody needs to win the Rumble because that'll put him in line to face Roman. That's how he gets to face Roman. Because we know Roman isn't just going to be like, oh yeah, sure, I'll fight you, Cody, for the title. It's not going to happen. So Monday, hopefully there's something good to add to this to tell us where Cody's going. Friday's going to be way interesting because we're going to get to figure out what's going on with Roman. Where's Roman going next? What is up with Jimmy? So a lot of stuff coming up this week. So hopefully WWE does that good. Dynamite looks like it should be a good show. We'll see how that gets booked and played out. Hopefully we get some more build to All In, along with All Out. And so that's that. I mean, a lot of stuff. SummerSlam was a great show. It felt like a Hunter. It felt like a Triple H show for sure. It felt on point. WWE, of course, is doing this thing. The TV shows are okay, but they're killing it with these pay-per-views. They're really knocking it out of the park with pay-per-views recently. So hopefully they continue to trend. They brought back Payback, which is coming up next month. So we'll see how that goes. I do hear that there are rumors that Survivor Series will have War Games in it. It is starting to be talked about that there's War Games. I do see a lot of builds where they could put teams in the War Games. So and I don't think WWE cannot not do War Games. You have AEW doing their own version of War Games called Blood and Guts. WWE's got to do War Games to stay competitive in that angle. So that'll be interesting. So right now, I know we're going to see building in the Payback, but we also got. I think we're going to start seeing the build towards Survivor Series. How we're going to see that play out, and then we'll go from there. I mean, that's our next stop. Payback, whatever the October pay-per-view is going to be. I don't know if it's a Saudi show or not. I haven't heard a whole lot about it. We know Survivor Series in November. Last year we didn't do a pay-per-view in December, so we'll see if they do a pay-per-view this December or not. And then we're in the Rumble time, so we're getting real close. Yeah. The end of the year, we're on pace. I mean, months have been flying by. I can't even believe it's August already. We're 6 days into this now, officially, in California. So it's real interesting. It's back to school season. It's the season where hopefully soon enough we'll be starting to turn cooler. Of course, here it's been really nice. This week it's a little hot. We're up in the hundreds, but through the week it's going to be a couple days in the high 80s, a couple days in the low 90s. It's not a killer summer out here right now, so enjoying it. But is there anything else you want to add before we wrap up and say goodnight and fair adieu and so long?
I just kind of want to strengthen the idea that, let's remind people, it took 3 people to beat Jey Uso tonight.
No, they did the right thing. They did the right thing. They made Jey look strong, but they didn't let him win. Like I said, they were going to make Jey look strong. They had to keep Jey strong, but they can't let him win. So, but yes.
So I'm saying, the potential for a singles run is just so great between him getting over because he pinned Roman before in the tag match, and then the performance that was put on tonight. I'm just really interested in seeing what they do with him going forward.
Where do you want to see Jimmy and Jey fight? Do you want to see them fight as soon as Payback? Or do you think they can carry that storyline and get them all the way to WrestleMania before they really touch? One-on-one.
What I want and what I think are probably 2 different things, like usual. I think they're probably going to touch a Payback.
Yeah, that's what I have to assume. But I don't know. I mean, you could add a lot of angles in there. You could bring in the Quiche Daddy to bring, try to keep, no, you don't do this. And, of course, Jey has been the one that's your family. So, I mean, he's fought solo, so it'd be a little harder. But, I mean, that's his twin brother. So, I mean, you could really have this thing where Jimmy betrayed Jey, but Jey's not going to fight Jimmy. Just like, I'm not going to do it storyline to hold it out. And you could build.
But it's kind of different between brothers as opposed to when Rey Mysterio was doing it with Dominic. The whole father and son dynamic.
Yeah.
Like brothers, you're used. It's a reputation of brothers fight.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. I think I hate to say it at Payback, because I think that's a long-term storyline. You could really breathe air into it. It just depends. I mean, I guess you could have Payback, have Jimmy win, and Jey feel like, okay, and then Jimmy just avoid him until you get to Rumble where Jey eliminates Jimmy or Jimmy eliminates Jey to continue that feud and he's sparking. I just see this as a match that we're probably going to see at WrestleMania, whether we see it once before that or whether we get the 1, 2, 3 build into WrestleMania over the next, we get the rubber match at WrestleMania, the final match. I feel that we may see the Usos fighting at WrestleMania. It just seems like a big match for these two. In the meantime, I mean, it just depends.
Yeah.
So, but that was it. SummerSlam was awesome. The week was decent. Lots of news and rumors. We've discussed all that. Anywho, remember to go ahead and like, subscribe, ring that bell for notification. Help us build on YouTube. Share this out. Get it out to all your friends, family members, all those people who love wrestling. Get us out there so we can grow the this podcast. Also check us out. If you're catching us here on Facebook, or if you're catching us here on YouTube, you can join us on Facebook in our Facebook group, Value Wrestling. If you're coming over from Facebook, make sure you're joining us here on YouTube. Links are going back and forth during the YouTube page. Again, if you want more of Value Wrestling, we also have our representative Miguel over there on Spotify, who's covering everything New Japan Pro Wrestling. So if you're into New Japan Pro Wrestling, if you sort of like it but don't know enough, if you've never heard of New Japan Wrestling but want to learn about it, jump over there on Spotify, the Value of Wrestling over there on Spotify, where Miguel will go over all your New Japan Pro Wrestling stuff going on. I think right now, what is it? Is the Cup Series of some type, or the G1, or I think he's breaking down who's winning and what. I don't know. You'd have to go talk to Miguel because he's Mr. New Japan Pro Wrestling. This is the Value of Wrestling. This is our weekly roundup where we vow to put the value back in wrestling on the big time. This is my tag team partner,
Paulus Clarke.
And that is what we're doing. Now, I'll tell you all, you've done your job and you can go home and sleep well. Good night and fair adieu.